Vladimir Putin, he declared a partial mobilization in Russia, 300,000 troops, calling in reservists. He's saying, we're not going to conscript people just yet. We're just bringing in the reservists. But he did threaten to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. And some people are saying it's like a threat against the West, I guess, because NATO's basically backing Ukraine as it is. But a retired general said that if he does, the U.S. will probably, or could, hit Crimea and strike the Black Sea Fleet. So, I don't know, World War III, maybe. Maybe it's all bluster. I don't know. I don't think Putin is going to back away from this fight. I don't think anyone is going to back away. The U.S. won't let Russia take these. You got 4 regions now saying they're going to vote to join Russia. So everybody's sort of losing their minds. And I don't know, maybe World War III already started. At least the Pope thinks so. Yeah. Another story we got, this one's really funny. Karine Jean-Pierre is walking back Biden's statements about the pandemic being over. I'm just wondering, okay, well, does he have any authority or autonomy as the president at this point? Because clearly he doesn't. So we'll talk about that. Plus, Bill Maher, he's got another one. He came out and he said the Democrats need to drop the wokeness and stop talking about pregnant men. And this one's just so good. Because I seem to recall when Dennis Prager went on his show and said that they're claiming men can have periods. And Bill Maher was like, no, they're not. Blah, blah. And now here's Bill Maher going, maybe they should stop talking about that. Talk about turning it all around. It's amazing how times have changed. But we'll get into all this and much more. We had this other big story. That guy who killed that teenager in North Dakota, he is free on bail. So a lot of people are really pissed because they think he should have been remanded. This was a violent, politically motivated attack. This was overt terrorism. And the guy's out. The guy's free on bail. So that's kind of crazy. Before we get started, my friends, head over to timcast.com. Become a member in order to support our work. And tonight, we are going to have a members-only after show. Last night was really good fun. We played a game called Marry
Indict.
Indict. Yeah, because we don't want to say kill or anything like that. Indict. So who would you marry, who would you bang, and who would you indict? There you go. Still, it was not family friendly at all. Luke said some crass things. It was fun. You'll want to watch tonight over at timcast.com. We're going to have that uncensored show. It's going to be great. You'll also get other shows like Cast Castle Vlog and Tales from the Inverted World. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. And my friends, many of you have pointed out you're not getting notifications for the show anymore. And this is true and correct. We've heard it from many people that even if you click the notification bell, it's not happening. So you must be the notifications that you want to see from YouTube. If you are concerned about that, then take the URL, post it wherever you can, and notify people because YouTube isn't doing it. And I think the reason is obvious. It's censorship. We've got a ton of stories coming out about the federal government colluding with big tech like Twitter and Facebook. You think that's not happening with YouTube? It probably is. And they're probably going there and saying, hey, don't let these guys talk about this stuff. And then they do stuff like remove notifications. So smash that like button. Share the show with your friends. Joining us today to talk about this and so much more, especially culture, it's Rick and Trey from Adelitas Way.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, grab your mic, bro.
What's up? I'm Trey Stafford, drummer at Adelitas Way, and I'm just so happy to be here with all these amazing people in this room.
Right on, man. So who are you guys?
We're a rock band. Well, I'd say we're even genreless at this point. We just make music that we feel motivates people, uplifts people, whether that's in accomplishing your goals, finding love. I feel like our music has a very positive message, and I think that it's very important for us to use the platform that we've built to bring people together and to encourage communities and especially the rock community to stick together and look after each other. So that's a very important part of why we're in a band.
And call out the weird corporate wokeness and garbage in the industry, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean we've been battling against that for over a decade now, and sometimes we tell the stories of our journey, and again, people don't believe it. People won't believe when you tell them the truth.
I'll give people a quick little taste because we'll get into this later, but you guys were mentioning how like your managers would call you up and be like, post these like activist messages or something like that.
Right, they would just kind of schedule what your posts were going to look like, what your day was going to look like, and if you know, at 10 a.m. you're going to post this, or and then at 1 you're going to post this, and it's going to be supporting this, and it's always like some form of agenda, right? But I think one of the reasons we didn't fit into the system was because I was, I guess, labeled a difficult person to handle because I would say what I wanted, or I would have put my own opinion on it, and I'd have an email from 9 people who would be like, you need to take this down, or like, you're just always, I felt like I was always getting yelled at, right? I feel like no one wants to, they're like, oh, what's it like being a rock star? Get yelled at all the time.
But this is why so many people in the arts won't speak out, even though it's like that meme where the guy's burning the woman. He goes, I agree with everything you say. Because there's all these people around him saying, don't you do it. Don't you step out of line. Because if you do, they punt you out.
Oh, you get punted out, and it's even beyond that. They punt you out, and then they try to throw stones at you the whole way as you try to, get going again, right? It's a real blacklisting. I've had people go against us that have spent more time trying to make sure we didn't make it as an independent band than they did trying to help us when they were on our team. It was a very weird situation.
Because it's a cult. But we'll get more into that later too, because it's really crazy hearing these stories. We were hanging out at the Blue Ridge Rock Fest, and you were talking to me and all about this. We were like, we got to talk about it more. So we'll get into it. Thanks for joining us, dudes. We also got Luke Rukowski.
Super excited to talk about the satanic influence over the music industry just a little bit. Nothing crazy, just the reality of our current situation. My name is Luke Rudowski of WeAreChange.org. We talked about the shirt that I'm wearing yesterday. I thought I would just wear it. It says, "If I Told You So" was a person, and it has a nice picture of Dr. Ron Paul on there. You could get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Because you do, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
We have a workout room, and I was like, I'm showing Rick earlier. I'm like, so here's the kitchen. Like, here's the workout room. There's a picture of Ron Paul on the door for some reason, and there's a life-size cutout of Ron Paul standing next to it. I don't know why.
Like inspiration.
I don't know why we're fans of Ron Paul, I guess.
On the drive to Vegas to California, there's a big Ron Paul Revolution billboard, and I honor it every time we drive by it.
That's awesome.
Salute it. You're like, yes.
Yes.
We got Ian chilling.
I've been thinking a lot about order and chaos. Maybe we'll go deeper on this because I'm starting to read the COVID-19, The Great Reset, Klaus Schwab book, and thinking about how they really want to establish a world order out of what they believe is chaos. But I think there's a lot of value to chaos as well. I think you need a balance of both. You dudes, like, I don't know if anyone knows, but you guys, we met up at Blue Ridge Rock Fest, like you were saying, Tim, and got to watch Trev just slaying it.
Oh, man.
Even before the show, when you were getting pumped, you were pumping me up. Just it sounded like you were like pouring water on the table. It was so smooth. Like, it was percolating that rhythm, man.
Marching band, like 4 years of high school marching band, just those rudiments, man. They get you good.
Do you do that before a show? You usually just drum and get in the zone or something?
Every show, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of stretching, and after doing this for 15 years and having all the travel, like, you got to make sure your body's in really good shape to put on the performance that you want to put on.
I noticed you have good posture.
Throwing your stick in the air as you're playing with one hand and then catching it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was
That's
awesome.
so cool.
I was like, I hope he doesn't drop it. I hope my thoughts aren't going to interrupt his thoughts. Collective consciousness.
What?
Yeah, that's how I think, Tim.
All right, we got
Well,
Lydia
that's a
here pressing
terrifying
buttons.
glimpse into Ian's mind. Thank you guys for joining us. I loved Adelitas Way when I was in high school, and I'm stoked that you guys are here. I got to get a picture with you for sure. I wasn't able to go to the festival.
What was it, just a couple years
Yeah,
ago?
that's-
Yeah,
Must be a different graduation.
Yeah, I just graduated not too long ago. But I'm stoked. Let's get going. Let's get into this end of the world business.
Yeah, okay. The first
Yikes.
story that we got from the New York Post is the New York Post reports the apocalypse is nigh. The end is here. Buy your emergency food. I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. It says,
That's what it
not a
says.
bluff. Putin mobilizes reservists, threatens West with nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons. Quote, when the territorial integrity of our country is threatened to protect Russia and our people, we will certainly use all the means at our disposal. It's not a bluff. Putin accused the West of engaging in nuclear blackmail and noted statements of some high-ranking representatives of the leading NATO states about the possibility of using nuclear weapons of mass destruction against Russia. He did not identify who made such comments. So here's the thing. They're pulling in 300,000 reservists. They were already using these crazy incendiary devices all over Ukraine. Here's the big challenge. I don't believe any of it from anybody. It can be the Moscow Times, it can be Vladimir Putin himself, it can be Joe Biden himself, it can be the New York Times, and I'm gonna be like, I don't believe any of you. The U.S. has its interests. They're not going to tell us the outright truth because it would make them look bad. Russia, same thing. Everybody's trying to propagandize. So who knows? Well, the one thing I can say is Putin gave this speech, so you can see him talking. I guess some people think it's a deep fake, but look, I think Vladimir Putin absolutely would use low-yield nuclear weapons on Ukraine to win this war.
At the very least, he's going to say he would. You have to, as a president, say we will use every possible option. Nothing is off the table. That's a very popular phrase.
You're talking about the end of the world, Ian. Again, we saw, and I agree with you, Tim. A lot of this is posturing. A lot of this is saber rattling. A lot of this is trying to galvanize, his country and his people to go along with what he believes in. We see the United States do the same thing. We can't believe anyone here, but we saw Vladimir Putin kind of allude to this. Now he's directly saying it, and he's also doing it in a way which I think is laying down the groundwork for a potential strategy which is going to be dangerous for everyone, because the Ukrainian territories are going to be going under a specific election to join Russia very soon, which will officially probably make them Russian territories. Now, if there's Russian territories that were former Ukrainian territories, when the Ukrainians attack this, Vladimir Putin is laying down the groundwork, saying specifically, I could just nuke them because they attacked Russian territory.
Yep.
So this is the groundwork that they're setting up here. This is an extremely dangerous situation, and it could have been all avoided. Foreign Affairs wrote an article saying specifically that in April of this year, Russia and Ukraine negotiated a peace deal. They were about to sign a peace deal. They tentatively agreed to it, and then Boris Johnson flew to Ukraine and said, no, don't do it. This war could have been stopped. It could have been prevented. It wasn't. It's only escalating from here, and it's endangering everybody.
It may be the end of the world, but not like, I don't think Putin's going to launch a 50 megaton bomb ICBM at London or something.
No, we're talking about small strategic nuclear weapons.
But the U.S. would retaliate.
Absolutely.
Other countries
most
would come
likely.
in.
Well, it's hard to tell. It's hard to say exactly because we don't know the full scale. We don't know the latest technology out there. When we think of nuclear weapons, we're thinking of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but we're thinking incorrectly because this is technology that is almost 100 years old and is absolutely nothing compared to the latest technological advancements that the Russian military has, the Chinese military has, and the U.S. military has. We're talking about weapons that could end the planet 10 times over easily now, and that's what we know about. Imagine what we don't know about. So there's still a lot of mystery here. We don't know what's going on. We see one side of the story being purported. A lot of it is pro-war. There should be another side to it saying, hey, stop with this insanity. These politicians shouldn't be sending people to die for their causes and their influences. This is stupid all around.
What is the cause anyway? What's the point?
the war?
Yeah, just they want to connect the land between Crimea and Russia. They want that eastern Ukraine.
It's far more complicated, and a lot of it is energy also included. But that's just.
I'll keep it simple for the sake of contemporary politics. Russia has one warm water port, Crimea. If Ukraine goes NATO, they lose access to the Black Sea and shipping oil and other resources.
They can get there from the east. I was looking at a map, but it's a bridge, and having one bridge into your territory is not secure. So they want multiple highways. There's two big highways that go in through Ukraine that they probably want access to.
They need access to the Black Sea. They have a fleet there. They need it.
But then they're going to be beholden to Turkey. You understand, Turkey has the
Bosphorus.
The Bosphorus Strait is Turkish. So if the Russians...
Turkey and Greece
Turkey's
are
part
also
of NATO.
at odds with each other, and there's also a big flashpoint there that may lead to a war between Greece and Turkey. And there's also a lot of oil and energy found specifically in that region that Russia is now occupying that could make Ukraine a petrostate. If Ukraine is a petrostate and is with the European Union, it's game over for Russia, and they know this.
All right, it's all extremely esoteric. Let's bring it back home to earth. You guys are rock stars, so the
when are you guys playing in Moscow?
No. I was gonna say, this stuff's like, this is really in the weed stuff, but I'm wondering if it's this kind of thing is breaching into your world. Concerns about global recessions, economic collapse, war, civil war, or whatever.
Oh, it all affects us. I feel like musicians are the ones that get affected by everything, right? It's right away we noticed a recession is right now. A lot of people are still trying to figure out, I guess officially, because no one will admit it, but we're in a recession. We can tell when we're on the road, right? When gas prices are $6 a gallon, when hotels have doubled in cost, like people don't want to travel anymore. You get less people, going to concerts.
You're on stage and the panties being thrown at you are from Walmart.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Instead of Victoria's Secret.
They don't come because they'll tell you about it. We were going to throw our panties on stage, but we just couldn't.
Can't afford it.
We can't afford to lose them.
We met people on the last couple runs we've done that have 3 jobs and can't afford their rent. So it's a very weird time, and to see us constantly throwing as much money as we are at war, right? How many billions are we given towards this war?
100 billion or something?
On the
billion,
books, yeah.
Right, and there's more coming, and we did this already once in Afghanistan. We've already given so much money towards war, right? Our biggest fear for the last couple of years was, we don't want to go to war. We don't go to war. Well, here we are. We're right into a war right now. We're feeding money into this war while people here in the United States can't pay the rent. There's places that don't have clean water in the U.S. There's all this stuff going on here, but we continue to ignore that and focus on this war like it's a good thing.
Now I hear the arts are overrun with like leftists and liberals. Y'all didn't vote for Biden, did you?
We did not, and at the end of the day, I feel like I knew what was going to happen. That's happening right now. I felt like that came with that vote. I feel like when
Voting for Biden?
Yeah, I feel like if we were to vote for Biden, it would be to vote for what we're talking about, like almost a recession, an increase in energy. We knew when he came in that gas was going to go to $6 a gallon. We knew hotels were going to double. We knew. So for us, we're seeing our whole lives change. And then not to discount the fact that in 2020, we were the industry that they pretty much told, you're shut down. You're not playing any concerts. The only article we ever got written in Rolling Stone about us was that, we had #1 hits. We sold hundreds of thousands of records. Rolling Stone ignored us our entire career. We played one outdoor festival in late 2020, and they called us murderers. They were like, Adelitas Way is currently killing people as they play a concert outside. It's like, to use the media to try to do that to a band that's been working for 15 years, to write the first story about us to be a negative one about how we wanted to give people entertainment during a really tough time, which we continue to do, right? We went on tour with Skillet. We were doing live streams for our fans, playing live concerts for them when everyone was locked in their houses. Like, we care about our fans, and we wake up thinking every day, how can we make them feel like they're with us now? How can we make them feel like we're thinking of them? So we put on these live streams, we played these concerts, and we got crucified in the record industry
It's a
for
cult,
this.
man.
Crucified.
It's creepy. But if you come out and you put on your pink little hat, wave a Ukrainian flag, and advocate and vote towards giving billions of dollars to the war effort, you're good. They'd put you on front stage. They'd put you as the main act with all these big celebrities, this big Ukraine benefit, and they'd be like, "You're so brave and noble doing this."
It seems like that a lot of people in industry just in general are obsessed with germ theory of disease, and they don't focus enough on terrain theory of disease.
Yeah, and when they're wrong, they don't ever come out and say anything about the wrong information they were given, right? That's the problem that I have. The problem that I have is if you're going to force someone into a way, and then you're not right about that way after facts come in, you should say sorry about that, guys. or like, don't try to rule with such an iron fist over people the way that these past couple of years have been iron fisty, it feels.
You guys played in late 2020. You played throughout 2021. I'd imagine. You're playing now. How would you like describe your fans? Do they tend to be people who are like, this is busted, this is BS, you're doing a good thing, or do you get people who are wearing masks being like, why aren't you wearing a mask?
Well, we've had it both ways. We've had people stop following us because of that type of thing going on, but we've also had people come around and say, look, I felt this way, but then after learning and doing my own research and learning more about this, I was kind of mad at you guys at this point, but now that I'm here and I've learned more, I understand. Because what we're trying to do is provide entertainment for our fans and also feed our family, not become one of the stories that we're hearing so many of right now. Like, people are getting evicted from their homes. People are living in tents. We travel all across the world, and we travel all across the United States. And when you're in some of these progressive states, I can name a list of them. You're people will not believe.
You see the agenda playing out.
You see the agenda playing out. You see thousands of tents, thousands of homeless people, thousands of people waiting for just a truck to come by to give them water. When we played Portland over the winter, there were thousands of tents in the streets, and there were ambulances coming and picking up people who had frozen to death the night before.
In Portland?
In Portland.
It's not even that cold in Portland.
Right, but they're older people, right? That you if you're cold and you're older and you don't got the means to survive, right? Your immune systems are lower. People were dying, and they'll just come pick them up in the ambulance, drive them off, and you don't hear anything about this. And I think what helps us have the head-on-ness that we have is we meet so many of our fans. We hear so many of these stories. We hear stories about people working 3 jobs, getting evicted. We hear stories about people working 50-hour weeks and they can't afford anything extra, right? Like, we have fans that have been to 20, 30 shows of ours that write us emails like, I'm so sorry that I'm not going to make it when you come to Houston because I can't afford to drive the normal 3 hours like I would. Gas is $7, $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
Rent is this. It's really affecting the music industry. And for some reason, our peers in the music industry continue to support this type of attack on gas. That's our careers. There's no electric vehicle that we could drive across the country right now and tour in, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. Technology's not there yet.
Do people ever wear masks when they perform? I want to see it.
Hold on. Did you guys see, what band was it? What band was it? The Clean Hands guys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who was that?
Yeah, I remember we were talking
You see this
about
one?
it.
They were like, everybody has clean hands. And they're all like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's,
cold, dude.
No.
Oh, I know
Amazing.
these. I know the name. You
Yeah,
know
I
the
know
name.
them too.
It's the I Predict a Riot. You know that band?
No.
I Predict a
Oh,
Riot.
it's too bad. I like
Well,
that.
look what they're
song.
singing about.
Well, yeah.
We got exiled, man. They
someone-
found out we
pulling the
love
name up.
liberty and
Kaiser
freedom.
Chiefs.
Kaiser Chiefs.
Yeah.
Is that who it was?
Everybody wash your hands.
They were like,
Oh
"Do you
my
all
gosh.
actually raise? Show me
And they're
your
like,
hands."
yeah. The crowd goes wild, and they're like all in this cult, weird. Like,
I was like, "Bro, they're
I mean,
testifying." They're
Brought
like,
to you by
"Woo!"
Pfizer.
do you
Yeah,
feel like
right.
it's a cult? Being in a band, does it feel like a cult? Like you're the cult leaders, and it's a cult,
way.
like the fans.
No
Nah, if
way.
you're Kaiser Chiefs, maybe. I don't know about these
Yeah.
guys.
Like I
No.
wonder about the fan artist relationship because I'm an artist too, and I'm real concerned. Like I don't want to, I want people to think for themselves and to be independent humans,
know-
but I also want people to come watch me perform when I perform.
We know like half our fans by name, and we have
wow.
a lot of them. And he takes the time to meet as many fans after every single show, and we connect with our fans, and that's our number one priority is connection with our fans.
Yeah, it
'Cause
is.
that's the only reason we're where we are today as an independent band, because everybody in the corporate music industry has tried to crush us since we became independent. So we have to
Nonstop
be with our fans.
Oh, dude.
Non-stop assault, definitely.
Well, check this out. So we were shouting out Tom McDonald. You guys know Tom, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's number 3 Billboard digital sales with his new song Riot. I looked on the other charts. I couldn't find him. Maybe I just don't know where the charts are, but I look at hip hop and rap and he's not there. And I'm like, something is BS. There's no
Right.
way. Dude got millions of hits when he dropped that music video. And he's number 3 in digital sales. I don't trust the industry at all.
No, they'll
It's
do whatever
it's
it takes.
It's a cult,
Yep.
and they want to control the arts, to control the narrative and manipulate people. But more importantly, they want to make sure you guys stay in line. They want you. So we were talking about the show earlier in the show about a particular band. I don't want to say the band. I don't like dragging other people's names
Right.
into things. But a big band, and all of a sudden they're like posting things about abortion and stuff like that. And I'm like, I think they're woke. And then you guys were saying, nah, they probably have managers who told them they have to post it.
Yeah, because you get blacklisted. Like if you don't comply, you start noticing your opportunities going down, right? But what Trevor was saying, it doesn't matter when you have amazing fans. When you have amazing fans, they lose their power. The media was more powerful. I think they're becoming less trustworthy overall, and over the past couple of years, because people are kind of like they're aware more now than ever of what we're being fed constantly is not the truth. So I think the media is losing its luster a little bit, and I think that the music industry is just another avenue that the media uses to brainwash people or control people. Or that's a whole other can of worms. But they're using their biggest artists to try to.
Yeah, it's
promote
like
the
a
agenda.
battle
Well,
of the
if-
cults. I mean, no matter what, we're all in cults of some sort.
No,
Maybe it's your
no.
family, maybe it's your friend group,
Bro,
maybe it's
bro.
That's community. man.
What Kool-Aid
but
are you
you
drinking?
could
Ian?
invite your cultists to be like, think for yourself. Don't look at me.
But hold on, to go back to the topic that we were just discussing here, to segue this conversation, music and performers were always kind of known as being anti-war. What do you guys think happened to this anti-war element? The first thing that comes to mind is this famous saying by Tupac: "They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor." We don't see those kind of lyrics. We don't see this kind of galvanizing anti-war push, anti-establishment push from the music industry like we used to. What happened? What do you guys
These
think?
artists are selling their soul. That it's not pure passion anymore. It's more just about the money, the bling, whatever their shortcomings are, like whatever they want, in the short term, instead of thinking about a long-term passion, long-term goal. So whatever they got to do to come up that like so quick, they're just gonna follow whatever orders they got.
I think what we're seeing right now is that there's always been a contingent of people with no morals, no principles. They want stuff, they want money, they want power, and they want social acceptance.
Yep.
And what's happening is because of the internet, you can see it's being filtered out. And so those people, they're the ones who are going on Twitter and they're like, in big bands or whatever, and they have the Ukrainian flag and they're just saying like, yeah, war, sure, whatever you say. Because like I was just saying, if you guys, go to a festival or you get a manager or whatever, and you'll be like, yeah, tell them we want to do a festival benefiting Ukraine. Oh, then all of a sudden they're going to be like, we'd like to get the Rolling Stone there. We'd like to get New York Times there. They're going to do a profile on you. They're going to give you this big, multi-page spread in magazines or websites. I guess people don't buy magazines anymore. And then they're like, we're going to sign a deal with you and give you everything you want if you've supported the war machine.
I think it's also the lack of education in the schooling system for the younger generation. I think a lot of these people don't even know what anti-war means.
Yeah.
Like,
and I want to make a distinction here because you could still support Ukraine and still be anti-war. There still is a human cost to this war that's affecting everyone on both
That
sides.
gets lost in this all.
And you know, the humanity is being lost here because all we're seeing is pro-war, you know, bomb, 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 send more weapons, send more murder, except, you know, we should be having those conversations saying, let's try to stop the murder, maybe. And music used to be that vessel, used to be that voice that used to break through the news, break through the conditioning, and inspire people to stand up for peace.
I think it got taken out by radicals in a sense. I do. I think the music industry has been overtaken by radical ideology from the top, the leaders of it. Because if you were to make a song like that right now, like what you're saying, I think you could end up dead as an artist. I think if you wrote a song that kind of went that against the grain, like, you know, people are starving, you know.
I'll push back. I think maybe a few years ago, but we were seeing people doing it.
Yeah, they are now.
Like a lot of, Tom McDonald's the obvious one, but
the Dixie Chicks called out the Bush invasion of the war in Iraq.
But didn't they walk that back? And then they dropped Dixie from their names or whatever,
yes,
their name or whatever.
Yes,
Cause
that was
weird,
later
yeah.
on.
And then you had the Lady Antebellum, I think. They like changed their name to Lady A, but then it turns out there was a black blues singer named Lady A, and then she was like, "You're a racist for stealing my name" or something. There's just there's no winning. But I'll tell you right now, there's who's the other rapper who's done it? Bryson Gray, is that his name?
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of people who are outright calling out the machine, and they're gaining in popularity. So I think you can push back. I think that the pushback is happening.
but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm a big fan of Tom McDonald, but does he play live?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think
And
so.
a lot of these artists that are speaking out don't play live, and I wonder what
I see what you're saying.
the repercussion would be if they were to play live. You know, like you need security, you need, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we put on an event a few years ago, and some Antifa guys called up and threatened to burn the theater down. And so they waited till the very last minute, and the theater cancels on us. So we ended up moving the event to a casino. So the event still happens, but it cut our capacity down. We did our after party in the same place. They show up. They were threatening us outright. The cops like, we're not going to do anything about it.
It looks like Tom played live until October 2020. Since October 23rd at JJ's Bohemia in Chattanooga, Tennessee was his last show, according to bandsintown.com. I don't know.
Or he's just not listing them anymore. I mean, I'm sure
I
he
love
performs.
live performance, but I know what you mean. It can get a bit chaotic.
Oh yeah.
We got to get rid of these. We not get rid of them, but we got to stop the cowards, because I know for a fact we went to Blue Ridge Rock Fest. It's huge. It was amazing, and I'm walking around and people are like, "Yo, hey, what up, Tim? You know, a big fan." And I'm like, "Oh wow." Band members, other staff. There were like 4 bands that were familiar with IRL that were fans of the show, and I was like, "This is really cool." I was like, "How is it that so many people here, even the performers, are fans of our show? How are they not speaking out, challenging this stuff, just telling everyone to shut it down?" I don't think it's you know, at a place like that where I suppose if everybody already agrees and they're like, "Get that woke crap out of here," you know, I understand if they're not making it their entire lives. I don't necessarily want to go to a rock show and be lectured to or anything like that. But I'm like, how is it that the industry still has such a stranglehold when so many of the people there reject the ideology? But I guess at the end of the day, they just say yes to their managers or whatever.
It's the leaders. So that's where it all comes down to. It's also whoever's leading the band too. If you have the leader of the band, the star of the show, and you know, someone who's a member is saying they love you quietly, the leader of the act might not think like that. Also, they might be programmed by, because usually they're the ones dealing with the managers, the labels. It goes beyond that. It really is a deep entrenchment. And if you want to continue to have almost this meteoric rise, or these opportunities continue to come your way, you have to comply. If you stop complying, you find yourself having to be independent or go on your own, or have to build a house out in the middle of nowhere and be self-sustainable, right? You're exiled from the community in a sense. So I think, to answer your question, the guitar player of a band may be like, "I love you, Tim," but he's not going to go out and say that or do what he feels, because he could be kicked out of the band by the person that's...
Look at Pete Parada. Right, so we worked on a song together. We're gonna work on a bunch of more songs with him. He's a former drummer of the Offspring. He goes to his doctor, and doctor's like, "Yeah, you can't get the vaccine because you have a high risk for Guillain-Barré." And he's like, "Oh man, that sucks." So the Offspring's like, "You're fired."
Right.
He's like, "Bro, like
Another
he didn't
example.
even disagree with them." And the crazy thing is, he didn't disagree with them. He just like, "My doctor says I can't get it," and they're like, "Oh well, dude, you're fired." And then all the media writes he's an anti-vaxxer. yeah, these people are in a cult, man. So I can understand why people are scared for sure. But that's why I was like, for one, it was awesome to work with Pete because it's like I've been listening to Offspring since I was a kid. So it was an honor to be able to have such a good drummer. Plus he was in Face to Face and he toured with a bunch of other bands. And but it was a huge market opportunity. I'm like, we get this great drummer, they're losing out. But the other thing is, we want to make sure that if someone does speak out, and Pete didn't really even do that, but if they are going to try and come after you, that we're going to be building an industry in some capacity that's going to be like, nah, you're not going to be left destitute. We're gonna work on music.
Right, there has to be a yin
stuff.
to the yang, right? It can't just be you're exiled, you're out here, and now you're getting rained on in the mud. There has to be another group of people that welcomes you and supports you. And I do agree with you. I think that that's growing, and I think there's a community of people that are putting their foot down because we have to at this point. I think we're getting into a bit, and I don't want to use the word desperate times because I don't want to fearmonger, but I do think that we have to start speaking out about how we feel, you know. We have to start talking about, we can't be ashamed to say that we love this country and we love liberty and we love freedom. I don't know when that became like where you say that in a room and no one likes you anymore, right? Like there's a lot of things that we're losing right now that I don't think is okay, you know.
Just play country music. You know
That's
what I mean?
what's at.
I mean, it is.
down.
Look at, you see John Rich put out that song Progress.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's just like, stick where the sun don't shine. And they're like, yep. And I'm like, well, at least that whole faction of people are cool, and that industry is trucking along to
It
just fine.
seems like music industry in general has always been about profit. Maybe not always, but like since 1920 when it didn't used to exist until radio. Like they used to just play for food at night, and then that would be it. That they weren't rich at all. And then they started being able to control their own. Couldn't really control their own distribution. That was the labels came in and immediately were like, we're going to control your distribution. So when then that died off in like 2001 with Napster, like 97 or something, and then the artists started to be able to control their own distribution now.
Yeah.
So but that old network of people still is trying to profit off of it. But so like now there's like an artist distribution thing. It's just diasporic. Like they're all over the place, and there isn't like a unified.
It's very cartel-like, though. I just want to explain. When I use this word, it's a very extreme word, cartel. But I talked a little about it earlier when me and Trevor were talking. Like the people in the music industry will ruin someone's life and lose no sleep over it. And it takes a certain type of person to do that, right? They will shoot someone in the head, watch them drop dead on the floor, turn to their assistant and say, "What's for lunch?" and not think twice about what they've just done. They will take an artist who's a 20-year-old kid with dreams. They will ruin his career because of whatever reason they want to, and they will not think about it again when they leave the room. Like for people like us, if you hurt someone's feelings, or I love people, I'm a people person. If I do something wrong to someone, it bugs me, right? The people leading the music industry, it doesn't bug them. They could literally ruin someone's life and then never, ever, ever think about it again.
Yeah.
So they think of artists as cattle, basically.
Yeah.
Musicians as-
I think it's more than that. I think it's beyond just money, because there are very talented, very good people who don't get any play on the radios or in the music industry. Individuals like Lupe Fiasco. He was blowing up. He was a major music performer. Everyone loved him. I interviewed him along with Immortal Technique at Occupy Wall Street. And then he went to Obama's unofficial inauguration event. And while everyone's there to celebrate Obama, he criticizes him and his drone policies and makes a song that literally has him kicked out of the event. And now, of course, after that, he doesn't get that much play. So individuals like Lupe Fiasco, Immortal Technique are individuals that I listened to, that inspired me, that are in the kind of hip-hop culture world. But even rock stars, they're known as being anti-establishment. Now they're like super establishment.
Remember when there used to be this really great band? They don't exist anymore. I was a big fan. It was called what was it called? Rage Against the Machine. And now it's like these days, they're not around. There's a band that's just called Rage on Behalf of the Machine.
Correct. Yes.
So
Yeah.
is it like,
Right.
because it used to be Creedence Clearwater Revival talking about, Vietnam, screw Vietnam, get the troops out, war sucks. And then when Napster came out, is it like there was a moment where there was no music industry for a minute? And now they're like, we're just going to get 14-year-olds, put them on insane contracts and make them famous. They'll do whatever we say. We'll just pick people that want to be famous.
I think John Lennon terrified him, because he's this major celebrity who's being like no to war, and they're like, uh-oh, this is turning sentiment against us, and then all these other bands follow
And
suit.
look what happened.
Yeah, look what happened.
I think at one
What a
point he
strange-
said,
what crazy coincidence.
he might have said, I heard this, that he said in public, if I ever get so famous that I forget why I'm doing this, somebody kill me. And someone took him literally. They thought, Like some crazy guy remembered that from 20 years ago and was like, oh, he did ask, did I make sure that he gets killed? And so Mark David Chapman, I think was his name. I
got to read one super chat. You know, we normally save them for the end, but I just got to read this one. Peripheral Inkling says Slipknot still wears masks when they play. Maybe someone should tell them it's safe now.
Oh my gosh.
That was a good one.
Back to Rage Against the Machine, because I was a huge fan. But remember, their album cover was Che Guevara.
Yeah,
that dude's a monster.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, he is. So
what machine were they raging against?
Yeah.
The one that didn't support them, and then once they got power, they were like, okay, now we're good with the machine that we built.
We are the machine.
Let's jump to this next story. We got the story from Variety. Luke Rudkowski's dad, Bill Maher, says woke baggage is Democrats' biggest problem. Stop talking about pregnant men. Man, what a turnaround. First, the important thing, he's not really Luke's dad.
Yeah, and Vladimir Putin is not Luke's uncle.
That's right. None of this
And
is
Assange.
happening.
If all three of them had a DNA baby somehow, I would pop out probably.
Pop out. But a few years ago, Dennis Prager goes on Bill Maher's show and he's like, they're claiming that men can have periods. And then Bill Maher's like, no, they're not. And he's like, yes, they are. And they're putting tampons in the men's room. And Bill Maher is like, oh, it's for their girlfriends. You're crazy. Now Bill Maher is coming out and saying, like, stop talking about pregnant men. So maybe, I guess I can bring this up because I think what happens with Bill Maher is that he's kind of seeing the writing on the wall. He's like, uh-oh, this weird woke cult stuff is not popular. And if we keep embracing it, we're going down. So he saw the writing on the wall. He's changing his tune and pushing back and saying no to this. I think this is a white pill moment. Like, we can talk about the weirdo cult. We can talk about industry control. But let's just say this. You got prominent HBO mainstream liberal personality pushing back on wokeness. You've got independent artists gaining traction, expanding, and pushing back on the machine, literally actually raging against the machine, and succeeding. So I look at this like, the weirdo uniparty cult ain't working out. It's fizzling. Right,
and I think a lot of it is because it lacks common sense, right? And it almost feels like a test of how far, what can we program these people to believe, right? Like if you're starting to lose common sense, like it's obvious that men can't get pregnant. Obvious, it's like, right? Come on, but it's almost like, let's run this test to see who we can convince this and what part of people are convincible to do anything, right? Like you have people that are jumping onto this, right? Those are the people that are unreasonable. Those are the people that no matter what facts you show that are currently going on, they will deny the facts. You could show them, data from a year later. They'll deny the data. You could show them, men can't get pregnant. Oh, I don't believe that.
You don't need to show them that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But it's crazy. That's what I'm saying. It's like how far can we program certain people? It's almost like a test. It's almost like they're running tests to see how convincible.
That's why I'm saying, simulation theory, baby. We are in a computer simulation, and there's someone sitting there going like, okay, let's enter the parameters, and let's now introduce telling all of the Americans that men can get pregnant.
I think they're hacking.
17% actually agreed with that.
They're hacking the way people think, because like Darwin, for instance, would say it's not the strongest of the species that survives, but the one that's most adaptable to change. And if people change to believe psychosis, that's part of, like, we're able to do that if we need to survive for the moment. Let's just pretend that eating the frozen dead bodies, we've crash landed in the Arctic. Let's pretend like it's normal.
What?
Everyone get, like, you ever see that movie Alive, where
Yes.
that group went down, they had to eat each other to survive. You just put yourself in a moment of psychosis where, like, this is normal, we're gonna get through it. And then, for better or worse, we've basically accepted something that you might normally think is psychotic. So I think people have hijacked that with social media, and they're feeding it, and they're like transiting people or something.
It's what Stalin said. So he had plucked all the hairs off this chicken, right? And
feathers?
Yeah, all the feathers. Yep. Thank you for that. So you're the chicken master.
Hey,
I don't have
chickens,
a chicken,
man.
So he tortured this chicken. And then after torturing the chicken, gave it a little food. And then the chicken followed him around for the rest of the day.
He was hungry.
And he essentially says, it's like, you could torture people, you could torture animals, you could torture something, and if you just give it a little morsel, it'll come back to you for more. And I feel like we're being conditioned right now to the financial crisis that we're in. We're being conditioned that inflation could be at 80%, 10's not bad. We're being conditioned that you want your own apartment when you can't afford it. Well, just get 2 roommates. Like, we're being conditioned to like lower
Our standards of life.
Our standards of life. Like, you're working 40 hours a week, you don't have any money, living in your car. Like, well, there's a lot of people doing that. So you should be grateful that you're not in the tent in Portland. Like,
Do you see what David Hogg said? So for those that don't, you guys know David Hogg. He's the one of the gun control activist guys on Twitter, and he said that he's not going to have kids. He'd rather have a Porsche or a Portuguese water dog. And a lot of people saw that tweet. I retweeted it, and I quote tweeted him and said, "Thank you for your sacrifice, David. You're making the future a better place."
Yeah.
But it goes both ways. Like fighting climate change. Hey, all right, not having kids. Hey, a double win. But here's what people missed. His first tweet in the thread, he said something like, "Children are the new luxuries," and what I mean is, it's something where it's really difficult to have. You can't afford it. So it's nice when your friend comes by and shows it off, but it's not for you because you can't afford to have
It's like a boat. That's what he said. Children are like the modern day boat.
That's what he said.
That's a way to take happiness off people. My children are the greatest thing that ever happened in my life. And when I hear someone, go to that extent to say, like, I'm not going to have kids, like they're punching themselves. That's him punching themselves. I love my kids so much. It's such a gift. And it selfishly does so much for me to have my kids, because I get to feel this love, and I get this bond and this connection that I think, if that's the direction they're going to go, where they want to push everyone into not having kids and not experiencing that love and not being able to spend time with family, I think that's a bad direction. I think that's a bad direction. It's another direction away from God. It's another direction into the
servitude.
The servitude, the satanicism. It's just another way to suck love away from you, or suck the greatest things in life out of your life. It's just
the biggest gift, denying it to yourself because of some propaganda that you heard, because of some elitist newspaper telling you that it's bad for the environment, which is absolutely just an insane thought, and just debunk on its basic premise.
But his point was, it's like a boat where it's like your friend has one. It's fun to go visit and see theirs, but not have one yourself. And then he says, "I'd rather have a Portuguese water dog." He said, "What did he say?" He also said something. I mean, these are interesting points to be made. I don't agree necessarily, but he's making interesting points. That he was basically saying, a pet is cheaper than a kid. It reaches a certain point where it's not going to get any more expensive. You don't got to pay for college. A house plant is cheaper than a pet. You get it, you have it, you take care of it. But he's actually making a really great point. For people who want something to take care of, child is one of the hardest things, but one of the most rewarding. I mean, you're on your deathbed and you've got a human being who loves and is caring for you and making sure you're comfortable on your way out. A dog ain't going to do that.
But a Porsche,
dog is cheaper. A dog is cheaper. So instead of spending, I think it's like $250,000 to raise a kid or something, you're spending $10,000 on a dog. Maybe then you can't even deal with that level of taking care of something because you got to schedule letting it out, so you get a cat. But then you don't really, maybe you can't afford the cat, so you get a plant. Now the plant is like the lowest level of caring for a life form.
But they're also missing a huge point of what kids do to your motivation as well. Most people will say that raising kids are hard, but once you have your kids, you're going to do anything you have to do to give them the best life, and usually you become a better person because of those kids, and you get motivated to work harder, make more money, be a better family man.
Yeah.
And
strengthens your spirit too. I'm telling you, it brings you closer to God. You have kids, you feel some form of spiritual power within yourself and connection to another being that helps you up your level, man. You level up, and it's, I walked around in my 20s saying I'm never gonna have kids, and spoke like that, and then you learn, and I would say for anyone that feels like they don't need to have kids, I do think you miss out on a bit of a spiritual connection with God. You miss out on just a love that is just indescribable. And the people that are going to be by your bedside, look, my father just passed away. I love you, Dad. And it was me and my brother with him, and my mom. It was us. Yeah.
So we talked about this, about a lot of women who are lying to themselves or are scared to express themselves. The Young Turks, it's remarkable how they can take what I say and then completely ignore what I say, but show what I say and then turn it into something I didn't say. So I said, basically, I'm sure most women are happy to have their jobs and their success, and more power to them. I have tremendous respect to anybody, male or female, they want to get a job and succeed. But I think there are some women, and a lot of them, that really do just want to have families and not be breadwinners, but are worried about this because it's not as socially acceptable anymore, and they're expected to have careers, and with the economy the way it is, they have to work. So there's a lot of these women that are either denying it, they're lying to themselves, or they're too scared to speak up. But once they're older, they're going to regret it.
Yeah.
They're going to regret it. Now, I'm not saying literally every woman. I'm not saying the majority of women. I'm saying there's just a lot of women who are probably experiencing this. So take that out of context, Young Turks, by all means. But I think it's true. I think the thing is for guys, they can have kids. Like there's like 70-year-old dude can have a kid.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood did that.
I mean, you got 4 million little soldiers firing off in each attempt, and only one of them needs to be viable.
I hear the woman's body decides which sperm implants the egg too, fertilizes the egg. Like I don't
a
know,
doorman.
magnetic or something.
I don't know about that, but everyone has
It's
a
true.
window to fertility. Men also as well, but not as severe as women. That by the age of 30 lose almost 90% of all the eggs that they had throughout their entire life and existence. And even talking about this, it's a touchy subject because people automatically get very emotional. But I think at the end of the day, there's a legitimate argument to make that a lot of women have been brainwashed to serve corporations rather than, of course, their own families. And I think that's something that deserves to be talked about, deserves to be debated. And, we could be wrong on this particular topic, but again, at least let's have the conversation. That's being denied to everyone. And having children is something that gives a lot of people purpose, something that allows people to have something greater than themselves. Charles Oliveira, he's a UFC champion.
I love him.
He had a couple of fights in his career. He lost some, he won some, but then he went on a streak where he just dominated everyone. He's one of the best fighters right now in the UFC, and he attributes having a child to him being on a trajectory and on a purpose that made him that much better than almost everyone else in the division. And he's dominating. He's one of the best fighters that the UFC has ever seen. And he attributes that to having children. So that's a power there that I think is worth tapping into. Yep.
You just got to imagine that the guy you're fighting is trying to punch your kid.
Yeah.
And then you're just like invincible. The other guy's fighting for sport. You're fighting for your kid. I mean, even in all seriousness, you're fighting against somebody who doesn't have kids, and many of them do, but like you're fighting for someone who's passionate, driven by sport. You're driven by protecting your family. You're probably going to have a leg up on.
And then I'm reading the comments here. Someone's telling me, I was going to have my eggs frozen. People don't understand that also leads to a lot of problems and also has a very big risk of not working. And you could probably talk about this, Lydia, because I think you did some research into this as well.
Oh, I never looked at freezing my eggs because I know that's not a good idea, but I have lots of friends who've done IVF. It's incredibly painful. It's a horrible process. If you can avoid it, you should. I think we need to emphasize getting married and making families younger, but it's a cultural issue that I don't know if we can change from the top down. We'll have to see what happens.
When you were first having kids, Rick, did you go through like a panic state?
Yeah, of course. It's just everyone goes through the same process, right? You don't want you almost fear yourself out of having them, and then I mean we watched it happen with our guitar player. Like 1 year before, he's telling me like I'm just not meant to have kids, man. It ain't in my cards. I don't want them. Blah blah blah. Like the whole speech, and I'm like I don't know, man. Like I told him, I said when you have a kid, you're gonna think your kid's the greatest. It's all you're gonna talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so. If I called him right now, I'd be like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Hanging out, my little buddy. He's the greatest, man. You got to see him. He's already playing Stairway to Heaven on the guitar. He's won." Like you said, the best sperm gets into the door, right? So you're proud, you're pumped, and I, what Luke you were saying. I think that it's embedded in women. It's embedded in us to have this nature, this motherly nature, this fatherly instinct. And I think women are just so great at family. And my wife is amazing at keeping our family together and helping me lead and make me a better person. And it's just family is so important. And I think that women are so good at it that when you see corporations or whatever it may be that's making them not want to have kids or not want to experience that, they're not experiencing something that they're just so great at. They're just, for a husband to watch my wife, I'm just blown away all the time by her ability to be so family oriented, such a great mother. I could just sit here all day, but it's just a characteristic of great women.
I used to say I didn't want to have kids unless I could bring them around the world with me. I want to travel and go. Like how have you dealt with being on the road when you tour with having kids if you don't bring them along? Because I don't know. Do you bring them? You said I think we talked before, and you said you don't bring them along every time.
I don't bring them along every time, but I know I got to provide for them, and that's very important. And I know I got to provide a good life. And I think the way our schedule is is I like it. I like going for 2-3 weeks, working so hard with my best friends. I'm in a band with my best friends. It gives me another balance to my life. We have a great time together, and then I get to go home and be with my kids and my wife 24 hours a day. I don't got to wake up and show up to no job for 8 hours, take an hour break when I get to be with my family for 2-3 months straight, all day, every day. And the juice is worth the squeeze to me. So yeah, I miss them. When we're traveling, I miss them. But
Oh, do you
it's
video
worth-
chat
let's,
while you're on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We're going to jump to this next story. Cancel culture, baby. Dilbert is racist. Popular
my.
comic strip is canned by 77 newspapers after artist Scott Adams began incorporating anti-woke plot lines, including black character who identifies as white. It's brilliant. Good job, Scott. I mean, dude's speaking up and using his platform, and they come for him because of it. Now they do say over at the Daily Mail, Gilbert strips featured in newspapers. I don't know what Gilbert is, but Dilbert's been around forever, and so he's got a bunch of these comics. One is a guy, and he's like, Dave, I need to boost our company's ESG rating, so I'm promoting you to be our CTO. I know you identify as white, so that won't help our ESG scores, but would it be too much trouble to identify as gay? He says, depends on how hard you want me to sell it. Just wear better shirts.
Oh my.
This is great.
That's
These
hilarious.
comics are actually, they're hilarious. So there's one where it's like, I don't know if it's in here. One of the comics is they're introducing a black character, and he's like, I'd like to introduce you, to our new employee who's going to help bring our ESG score up. And then the black guy goes, identify as white. And he's like, you're ruining this. So anyway, look, Scott Adams obviously has been outspoken for a while now, but directly incorporating the stuff more and more into his comics. So what do? They can the comics. But you know what? This says to me, it's just winning. I know there's a lot of people who are like, you're getting canceled from newspapers. You think that's winning? I do, because people like Dilbert. There's going to be a lot of people who are like, yo, where's Dilbert? And I'm willing to bet. And if you're a fan of Dilbert, I'm willing to bet a lot of people are going to look at their newspapers, the ones that are still reading it, and be like, where's Dilbert? And or the websites.
Dilbert.
And they're going to call up and be like, hey, where's Dilbert? And they're going to be like, oh, we were offended by it, so we took it out. And they're going to be like, well, I like it. Bring it back.
Well, it also matters that you're here giving them more of a platform too, right? Like we talked about the other side.
Right.
You get canceled off one side, another side brings you up and rises you up. So that's a good, doing the right thing with the platform. But also what makes me scared is how the most powerful companies in the world are the ones that are the wokest right now. That's concerning. When you look at who's pushing all the wokeness on us, it's like Disney, it's like ESPN. It's like, wow, these are like powerful players in media.
Yeah,
It's concerning.
Well, that's because of the ESG score, which he was criticizing, which he got canceled for criticizing. And I
Right.
think that's more to why he got canceled than any other reason. Just yesterday at the Clinton Global Initiative, Bill Clinton was talking with the heads of BlackRock promoting ESG as somehow some kind of great accomplishment. It's awesome. It's great. No, it's literally a Ponzi scheme for people to enrich themselves and push ideas that divide and conquer people and make them more dependent on the state. And when you look at these funds, when you look at what they're doing, it's absolutely sinister because they go to major corporations and say, hey, you're going to promote this idea. You're going to push this agenda. You don't, we're going to cut your funding. We're not going to give you any money. And the corporations listen.
It's also just going to bolster investment into China.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder how
100%.
Alphabet's dealing with it, the parent company of YouTube. I haven't talked to anybody there. Well, parent company of Google, which is a parent company of, I think Alphabet owns YouTube now. I think it's a separate company. It could be Alphabet owns Google, which owns YouTube. But I'd love, if somebody out there at corporate wants to come on the show and talk about it, how you guys are dealing with ESG, I'd love to hear it. Because Alphabet's like one of the most, maybe the most powerful media company on earth right now.
The woke cult, the ESG stuff only operates as long as people don't know about it. Once regular people find out about it, they get mad. That's how you end up with a Republican winning in Virginia. Because people didn't know what was going on in schools. They found out what was going on in schools, and then they were like, okay, I'm voting against this. And it was suburban housewives. They voted against Trump. All of a sudden, they see what's going on. They're like, it's worse the other direction. So I think this is why they got to censor. It's why they're so adamant about controlling what you guys post or what other artists post, especially for bands. This is why I'm saying culture is so important. Because people just want to be entertained. They want to have a good time. They want to relax. They don't want to think about work. They don't want to think about hardship. They don't want to think about politics. They don't want to be brought down. Some people do. Some people love doom scrolling. But a lot of people, they're like, again, I'll shout out Blue Ridge Rock Fest because we were there just a couple weeks ago, or like 2 weeks ago. And the people who are there are like, I want to get out. I want to get away.
Right.
And so they go in mass to see Tenacious D,
In
to
the
see
rain.
Slipknot.
In the mud,
rain.
dude, it
To
was
get
hot.
sprayed down
Hey,
with
we had
fake
fun in
blood
the
by
mud
War.
rain.
So good. I
We had
spent
some fun in
rain
the
for
mud
you, brother.
rain. Come
Ruined
on.
my shoes, man.
Get wet.
It did me too.
But so then they know that these people up on stage at that moment have a lot of influence, because you can look at a crowd and you can be singing and then you point the microphone and everyone in the crowd knows it's their turn to start singing. So you go up on stage and pull a John Lennon and say, this war in Ukraine is BS and we shouldn't be involved. And people are going to be like, do I cheer for that? Or like, what? I like this band, so I'm in, I guess. That's what they didn't like about John Lennon. And that's why I think TV shows, movies, actors, the arts, they locked that down and made sure everybody was marching in lockstep.
They tried, but John was unstoppable. Man could not be stopped, dude.
Yes,
Remember
yes,
the bed
he was stopped.
Well, everyone
He's
stopped
very
eventually.
stoppable, yeah.
Everyone dies eventually. But John
but he
Lennon,
was young.
He was so famous that the media couldn't stop. Like, they would still go to his apartment with him and Yoko in bed. Like, what was it, a Sleep In for Peace they were doing? Like,
Yeah, when that happens, they get rid of you, it seems.
He was stopped. I mean, I don't know. There's a bunch of wild theories, but I can just say that somewhere or another, like, dude was stopped.
by John Mark Chapman, you mean? Or is that
Mark David
Mark
Chapman.
David John Mark Chapman? Who the hell is that? Mark David Chapman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
I don't know.
theories.
I don't know. I mean, maybe someone sent Chapman after him. Maybe because he was so
I don't know.
anti-war.
Or
The
Chapman
wa-
was just crazy.
You start thinking when you dive so deep into the layers of obviously listening to the show, hanging out with you guys, you're getting informed, right? You're learning more. You start questioning everything that you see when you see Lennon's death. When you start putting pieces together of influential people that have passed away and the messages that they were standing for. Anytime someone's uniting people, bringing people together, going anti-war, they don't last very long. And it makes you start really wondering, like, wow, like, am I a conspiracy theorist, or is this just how it is when you get too influential, where you're bigger than the media, you're larger than life, you're spreading this message that's bringing people together, making people love each
Michael
other.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain
do you
had that
become a
tweet.
problem?
Kurt Cobain had a tweet where he said he had evidence that would lead to the arrest of Hillary
is that what
Clinton.
he said?
And then,
What's Martin Luther King Jr. Actually, his family
that was-
filed a civil suit.
someone's going
against
to
the
clip
FBI.
that. That was a joke.
Yeah, just a
Media
joke.
Matters is going to be like, Tim Pool thinks Kurt Cobain had Twitter.
I think it was Martin Luther King Jr.'s family filed a civil suit against the FBI for
Yeah.
a wrongful death.
Didn't they like send him a letter telling him to kill himself or something?
That was the FBI under their COINTELPRO program. When MLK was in jail, they actually called his wife and played the audio recordings of MLK cheating on his wife, and they also sent letters to MLK in jail saying, "Kill yourself. You're
JFK
screwed. Your
too,
career's
another
over."
one.
So
That
this is
story's
what the
awesome.
this is
Well,
what
so
the
wait,
FBI, but this is what the FBI was doing decades ago, and not much has changed.
Who was it? The CIA is the heart attack gun?
Yes, that was with the commission.
This is why
hearings
people
that were
think
happening.
Breitbart was killed, because he was really young and he was extremely influential.
A lot of drugs too.
For sure.
I heard he was a big partier.
Right. But I'm saying the reason I'm not saying he was killed. I'm saying the reason people think it is because you have someone influential in politics, and then you go back 5 decades and they have a heart attack gun, and you're like, yeah, okay, well, it's possible, I guess. And it's really funny because then the media, like, you can cite the media, and then other journalists will then claim you're espousing conspiracy theories. It's the weirdest thing. You'd be like, hey, look at this story in the New York Times about a heart attack gun, and then they'll write a story about you saying you're an unhinged conspiracy theorist talking about heart attack guns, and it's like, I was just reading the newspaper, dude. Come on, man, leave me alone, you know.
Yeah.
But I wonder what you guys listening think. Do you think that, like, Lennon, John Lennon and like JFK were removed, or I mean, well, obviously they both were, but was it like overt high level politics, or was it lone weirdos?
Well, now when you see the media get behind something so hard, like some of the things we've seen, like I even brought it up the other day, like, and I know that this is a bad example, but it makes you think of the DC sniper, right? That guy that was just on the side picking people off. Once you start seeing how much the media went in on that story, when does the media go that in on something unless they want to manipulate the tale of the story, right? So it makes you start thinking, like, was that guy exiled, right? Was he in the system at some point, learned some information, exiled out? Like, is that another instance of this? Like, you start looking at all the things in your life that you're growing up. For me, one of them is JFK. Lennon's another one. You got Chris Cornell. You got Chester from Lincoln Park. You hear rumors about some of the things that they had going on in a sense of really trying to help eliminate child trafficking. And this is real, man. These are stories that we're hearing from their families, from people we know that know them. They were heavily involved in really helping, people be exposed
were claiming
on
that they were
child
going to
trafficking.
expose it.
Yeah, and then they disappear. So it's like I'm sure it's a give and take. Some of it happened, some of it didn't. But you start questioning it all.
Dude, Charles Manson's another interesting one. He was part of MK Ultra. I believe it was MK Ultra.
Well,
they wrote a book about it. This guy wrote this massive book. He's been on Rogan multiple times.
Let's fact check if that's correct here, because we know the Unabomber was a part of the MK Ultra programs, which are secret programs by the CIA that was doing horrific human experiments trying to figure out mind control. So this is done, documented on the record. Your tax dollars went towards the CIA, and they experimented on a lot of people who were unsuspecting subjects. And they were given acid. They were given a whole bunch of drugs that they couldn't handle. A lot of people even died under CIA experimentation. But the CIA, decades and decades ago, all the way in the 60s and 70s, was working on controlling people's minds and getting them to do things for them. Yep. So this is not a conspiracy. This is real. This happens.
All my family and friends listening right now, you get your minds blown, aren't you?
This is like The Guardian has this article, Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA and the Secret History of the 60s by Tom O'Neill, with Dan Piepenbring review. I think there was a book, and I'll see if I can find the book title. Did the CIA's LSD labs make Manson the crazy? Because he would like get arrested and then they would let him out, and then he'd go and he'd get arrested again and they'd let him out again. Not like that never happens, I know, but here's a
Ted
question.
Kaczynski in the Unabomber was the big one.
Here's a question I have for Luke.
Very interesting story.
Here's a question I have for you, Luke. You made the bold claim about the Satanist influence in the music industry, and we hear a lot of this stuff from back in the day about like playing records backwards, and there's like a secret message. But what's going on? What information you got?
I don't ever claim to know what's going on. I just have a lot of questions that I think should be answered. And
what are your questions about Satanism
I think
in music?
specifically people in the music industry, are exposed to a lot of the insider dealings that we aren't privy to, and that's why I was kind of looking to ask you guys what you guys seen, because I think it's pretty clear there is some kind of satanic demonic influence, whether it's just done as parody or whether there's some deeper meaning to it. You see the lyrics, you see the symbology, and it's overt, and you see a lot of the same things, a lot of the same lyrics saying I sold my soul to the devil. I don't claim to know exactly what's going on here, but being in the music industry, how do you guys see it?
Well, real quick, I'm going to get a button for my Stream Deck that plays a sound bite from Boondock Saints when Willem Dafoe says symbolism when the guy says symbology.
That's a good movie.
That was a good movie. So yeah, what's going on, man?
So we see it too. I mean, look at the biggest artists in the world are getting on the MTV Movie Awards, and then you look at the subliminal messages behind. You look at even Disney. They did something in the Cruella de Vil movie that had like Satan on the front on entrance of her house, like you know what I mean, or the car, like there's all these little devil references, and then in music, listen to the lyrics, listen to some of the most popular artists in the world. You got Billie Eilish with a title, her song's called I'm the Bad Guy, right? My daughter's listening to that. She's 7-8 years old. I'm the bad guy, Dad. You've got the most popular rappers talking about overdosing on drugs. You've got these are the messages that the kids listening are falling into, right? That's first of all, those are the biggest artists in the world that they're promoting. And then you look at the fashion side of things. What was his name? Lil Nas X is on there with blood in his shoes.
And they're what are they called? Their hooves. They have the split in the toes.
Cloven, is that?
Cloven.
Hoof?
Dressed in all red. Dressed in all. Then they also say there's satanic rituals with the white and black floors in the videos. Like if you look at some of the biggest artists in the world, like it might be Jay-Z might be one of them. You almost get scared to say some of these people's names. When they shoot the videos, they say that they shoot some of these videos on the black and white floors and all this stuff. Like these places are where like rituals happen, where there've been like sacrifices. Like you hear these rumors in the music industry, and I don't think a lot of it's rumors. I think that there is.
But check this out. Something changed, and maybe it was an anomaly. But I remember when I was little, The first CD I ever got, Americana, Offspring. And so they have a hit song. It's a huge song. It's called The Kids Aren't All Right. And the song is literally just lamenting the demise of like the family and urban decay. It's literally him singing a song about how these kids, nothing's free, chances thrown, longing for what it used to be, like wanting to go back to another time, people doing drugs, getting pregnant, dropping out. That's what the song's about, and it's negative depictions of that. They had another song on that album that was a huge hit. Why Don't You Get a Job?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm thinking about this a few years ago, and I was like, man, those guys were actually pretty conservative by today's standards. Then they put out a song a few years later called Hit That, which is a song lamenting the fact that lamenting hookup culture and that people aren't getting married anymore. And I'm like, these guys are like strangely traditionalist. But of course, now today they're like, you're fired from the band because dude could not get a vaccine. But it's just weird to see that back in the 90s, aside from Pretty Fly for a White Guy, I don't know, there's a bunch of songs on that album that are just literally, like have a family and get a job, and don't let your kids do drugs.
I gotta say, I think Satan gets a bad rep. Lucifer in general. I think. Well, firstly, I don't like evil. I don't like evil, and I don't like blood magic. I get pretty turned off by those things. But I think the propaganda of the Bible is like there were some cultists that were taking psychedelics, Michael the archangel and Lucifer and all these dudes and they were channeling God, communicating. But Michael was the leader. And eventually, maybe they were hoarding knowledge that they were like, it's too dangerous for them. They can't have the light. They can't have fire. You can't teach them how to make fire. Or maybe it's electricity. You can't give them flashlights. And Lucifer's like, no, you can't hoard knowledge from people. So he went and he's the light bringer. He brought the common people the ability to make light.
Satan and Lucifer are different.
So Lucifer I'm talking about, and Luciferianism or whatever. And then so he's like, and they cast him out, and then they demonize. They win. They go to war. There's a war over it. And then Michael wins, his cult wins, and then they write a book about it, and make him the most evil thing.
You going back to the first cancel culture ever? Are you
the
going
first
back
one?
to
It's Lucifer, the first canceled dude.
I don't know, man. It sounds like propaganda, Ian.
Yeah, sure does.
Look at Britney Spears.
No, you sound like propaganda.
Oh, well, it's all propaganda, ain't it?
Britney has come out and the media will cover every single time her hair's a mess in public, or every time that she makes a video where she looks like she had a glass of wine. But she came out and did an entire interview about how she was at satanic rituals in the music industry, that she was at events where they did this. They had orgies with masks on. She came out and had said that she's seen this stuff with her own eyes. No media coverage. No one talked about it. Nothing. But you will see media coverage on when she looked crazy on TikTok doing a dance. So it's an interesting...
Is it blood magic?
Well, hold on. A lot of those Disney stars that were brought up in the industry and became famous later on in their life, a lot of them are dealing with some significant problems, especially with their upbringing, especially with the industry that brought them up. And a lot of them do talk about a lot of abuse that happens to them, which I think is important to note and important to talk about. I don't know if you guys have any insights to that particularly.
No, just the same as you, right? You hear all the people, the child stars of the 80s and 90s. We're all paranoid, and they tell their stories about what happened to them. They were, I think everyone knows the elephant in the room is that there are certain groups of powerful people in this world that like children, right?
Well, I mean, I can't attest for any of the theories
Epstein
that
and
were
his friends. It's a fact at this point. I mean,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I have personal friends that literally, to them, sold their soul to the devil to become the best guitar player in the world, and their lives are ruined. So,
but they think they did. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Like
they would prick their finger, put their blood on a contract, write a contract out, sign it, and they would say, "I sold my soul to the devil to become the greatest guitar player in the world." And now they're druggies somewhere in the street.
Blood magic.
Whether you believe Satan or not, that person's life is ruined for what they believed in.
I don't like blood magic because blood's fascinating and people work with it. Like my girlfriend works with blood. She does diabetes, will hook people up to machines and stuff. I think, Kara, if I'm getting that wrong, sorry about that. But she works with it and is it's a fascinating substance. But Maria Abramovich does blood cooking, where they paint blood on the spirit cooking. And it's to get fascinated with blood, to love blood is one thing. We all got it. But to get obsessive with it is crazy.
Oh yeah, I pass out. I'm like, blood, pass out.
Yeah, we're you can't do it without because it's magnetic. There's iron in it, so it's that's why we have these magnetic, dynamos. So these magnetic fields. A big part is because the iron in the blood. Man, that
like in X-Men when Magneto was like, too much iron in the blood, and then rips it out of his body, and then he makes little things, and he's like flying around. Yeah, that's what
And they get magic is magnetic. That prefix.
Well, there's a lot of people that even go as far as to compare music to mind control because of the repetitive nature of it, because of the symbology, because of the lyrics, because people listening and also seeing it as a form of entertainment, which of course makes them put their guard down, and they're able to, of course, subconsciously pick up a lot of the larger messaging. So there's a lot of conversations about that specifically. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but another thing I wanted to also, if you want to if you want to go right ahead. But another thing I also wanted to talk about is a lot of artists and a lot of creative people usually say that their music or their art, they're usually just a vessel for it, and somehow when they're creating music or art, they have something else speak kind of through them. You see this kind of described a lot by a lot of very creative people. I don't know if you guys have any kind of examples.
I can confirm it 100%. Yeah. I feel like when I talk about the most successful songs I've ever had and that I've written in my life, I have to attach the word blessed to it, because these ideas came to me through like I'm a vessel, right? Like whether it's full melodies, choruses, lyrics, everything, just like it just happens, and then it changes my life, and then it changes the lives of the listeners, the fans. I've had the most fulfilling stories I've ever gotten. Money aside, like the things that have really fulfilled me the most in music is when someone comes up and says, "Your song, Somebody Wishes They Were You, changed my life. It made me look at life differently. I really appreciate and have more gratitude now, where I was thinking of doing something bad to myself, and then I heard some crazy stories along the way. I was thinking about doing something bad to myself. This song came on, I never heard of you before, it spoke to me, and then I went into a rehab and changed my life. Like, these are the stories that are priceless to me. These are the stories when we were out on the road and we were getting robbed for everything we had, working 9 months out of the year, going home with nothing, because we were signed all these terrible contracts. These were the stories that I'd lay in bed and I'd say, you know what, man, you might not have any money. You might be working hard. You might be, sacrificing all your relationships with your lifelong friends, your wife, your family, but you're making an impact on people's lives. And that drove me for years. And yes, it was the vessel that helps write these songs. I can definitely say that there's a spiritual connection between being the vessel to writing songs and connecting to people, and
a definite energetic one that can't be really described in words, and a lot of people have a hard time even quantifying in sentences, because it's how do you describe this feeling, this emotion that overtakes a lot of people even when they listen to a particular song, which of course is usually connected with their emotions. So there's still so many other things I want to ask you. There's also of course the 432 hertz conspiracy. I don't know if you guys heard of that one.
That's the key of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of different stuff out there, but we're just touching the surface.
I gotta know, Trev, when you drum, does it take over you?
Yeah, at a certain point. I mean, when a performance starts, you're focused, and then you could just contribute that to adrenaline as well. Like
he turns into a different person when he drums. I see it every night. There's like you watch someone go like Super Saiyan, and like when Dragon Ball Z characters would like hit the gas and their hairs would go like blonde and they'd have a whole energy aura. That's what it's like watching him drum for 15 years for me, man. I see him start going and people are like, you guys got so much energy on stage. It's because he's feeding me, who already has all this energy. I'm feeding the crowd. It's like our live shows are like a ball of energy circulating throughout a room, and
Let's talk about that 400 hertz conspiracy. What is that about, Luke?
Well, there's different theories out there. I haven't looked into it that much, but there's a theory that music used to be in a healing frequency, and then it was turned into a frequency that's more disruptive. You might know more about this than I do, because I just looked at the surface level of this.
It's one of those world elites, Rothschilds or something, that changed the standard tuning from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. 432 hertz brings out the harmonic resonance of the notes, and you get a lot more harmonics and saturation in the musical notes, and all original music like Beethoven, all those original classic composers played in 432 hertz. Their pianos were tuned to 432 hertz. Even the Beatles did some 432 hertz music as well.
I pulled it up here. We got it from Global News, the great 440 hertz conspiracy and why all of our music is wrong. They say, gather around, kids. Those of you with tinfoil hats may wish to ensure that they're fitted snugly. What I'm about to tell you will shake your faith in all the music you've heard in your life. If you look down the right paths, it becomes clear that governments and various security apparatuses have used music to control us. Oh no. All the music of the West that's based on the standard 12-tone scale is used for the management of crowds, as well as thought control. Ooh. They say if musical performances were to sound the same the world over, some standardization was required. As early as 1885, the Music Commission of the Italian government declared that all instruments and orchestras should use a tuning fork that vibrated at 440 hertz, which was different from the original standard of 435 and the competing 432 used in France. In 1917, the American Federation of Musicians endorsed the Italians, followed by a further push for 440 hertz in the 40s. In 1953, a worldwide agreement was signed. Signatories declared that the middle A on the piano be forevermore tuned to exactly 440 hertz. This frequency became the standard ISO 16 reference for tuning all musical instruments. So what is it? They say no one can say for sure. Why? So what's the conspiracy? What are you writing about?
Well, that's like it's driving people crazy.
Adherents to this theory claim the more natural frequency, or middle A, is 438. Others believe the correct middle is 432 because it is a pure tone of math fundamental to nature and is mathematically consistent with the patterns of the universe, vibrating with phi, the golden ratio. They point to how this pitch can be connected to everything from nautilus shells to the works of the ancients, including the constructs of the Great Pyramid. That proves it!
So
It's time to change all of our tunings.
The reason I brought this up is because I saw a scientific experiment, I think like 20 years ago when I was a child, and it had a box of sand and it put it over a speaker, and it played different hertz and it played different music, and you could see the shape of the hertz of the music that was translated from the grains of sand that were moved through the speaker. And some of the sand was very disruptive and all over the place and really nasty, and some of it looked like snowflakes, pure, perfect, synchronistic images. And, you know, this is where we get into a lot of the bigger kind of deeper hippy-dippy stuff when it comes to What the Bleep Do You Know, and other kind of documentaries like Water the Great Mystery that, of course, talk about this in great detail when it comes to, perfectly aligned alleged healing frequencies. And that's what we hear sometimes. Again, I'm not an expert in this. I just remember this sitting here from 20 years ago.
It's called kymatics, is where you use sound to alter matter. Mm-hmm. What were you going to say?
So like when you tune from 440 to 432, that's 32 cents lower. So it gives it more of a slower feeling as well. So I create meditation, relaxation music with elevated, and everything's tuned to 432 hertz. And that works better for that style of music when you want to chill and you want to relax. 440 could be, leveling it up to give it more energy. It might not be no crazy conspiracy theory stuff. It could just be like, hey, we want more energy. Like I know that Kiss from a Rose, that's Seal, right?
Yeah.
He wanted his song without changing the tempo to have more energy, so he brought up his tuning to like 442. So he brought it up because he wanted to give it more energy with just tuning it up just a slight. Yeah, I mean to the untrained ear, you can't really tell. Not even from 440 to 430, you can't really tell. It's more of a feeling.
Yeah, soul and feeling is so important. That's why I think that it could be a little. I don't know enough about it, but I know I write from like just the soul, and I don't overthink that stuff too much when I'm going into a key or a range. So, and I know that's work. So maybe there's a lot of ways to eat a Reese's, right?
Yeah, like I mean, think about colonization of the Native American population by the Europeans. Were the Native Americans chilling in 432, but
Native Americans were 432.
And so it didn't. The Native Americans were 432.
Yeah, if you go get a natural made Native American flute, it naturally comes in 432 hertz.
And they weren't out there engineering weapons, and I mean they had their own types, but not like the Europeans, not like gunpowder and explosives and physics to shoot cannons and like just that aggro go conquer take. Ugh. I wonder if that's
there was Native American tribes that were like that, Ian, that did conquer other tribes, that were very combative, that did enslave other populations, that did conduct human sacrifices.
Yeah, the Aztecs were brutal. They were way more brutal than the Europeans.
Brutal, yeah, but not technologically advanced.
They would rip people's hearts out on the top of pyramids, like calling in their entities because they wanted better farming seasons.
But it's like the aggravation that prompts engineering. Like I got to figure it out. Something's wrong. I got to figure it out. Whereas it's like, yo, something's wrong. No, something's fine. Everything's cool, just chill. Like that's the Native American style, whereas the European would be like, something's wrong, let's fix it.
But that's
I'm
not
generalizing too, of course.
But that's just not absolutely not true.
Yeah, they got
you're
battle
talking
drums, man.
you're talking about a population that solely lived in areas with winter, save the Mediterranean, and then you have North America with a wide range of different temperatures, especially in like the desert or the South where it's typically hot. Native Americans lived in Florida where it's tropical. So these things play a huge role in whether or not someone needs to strive towards something. You live in Florida, you don't got to worry all that much because the growing season is every day of every year. But for Europe, the growing season is they have to deal with winter. That means if you don't work, you don't survive. That's why they get technological advancements. There's no rage around it.
It was heavily populated too. There's
Yeah,
true because after
density.
the flood, 13,000 years ago, that flood wiped out wiped out America. Like all the population of North America got smeared, or at least the United States got smeared into tar by that glacial flood.
Pretty sure that's not true. I'm pretty sure that there was a massive pandemic that wiped out most of the Native American
No, I'm talking about
populations.
12,800 years ago at the end of the last Younger Dryas. Randall Carlson's the guy to go to for the geological surveys on this stuff. But there's a layer of black sediment tar where all the megafauna of the giraffes and stuff were just smeared into dirt. by that flood.
Ian,
By
I'm
the
sorry, you're wrong because
graining ice.
everybody knows that there was already a great civilization that was here, and this mud flood came swept through and then buried those buildings, and we are only discovering them. That's why Chicago's underground. That proves it.
So my final question is: should we return the music to 432?
Yes, I hereby decree from this moment forward.
Do you guys
The
shoot
arbor
your
of
music
music.
in that frequency, or do you guys have a?
I
have
don't
no
know
idea.
because when you get a snark, a tuner, you put it on your guitar, it tells you that A is what it is.
Now-
it's just measuring 440.
Nowadays, it's very difficult to do your music in 440 because all the virtual instruments are naturally tuned to 440. So if you're
You
gonna,
mean 432?
I mean, yeah, 432. Yeah. So if you're gonna go in and put virtual instruments on your recordings, you literally have to tune everything down to 432, and they make it really difficult.
Talking about
That proves it's a conspiracy. That's right.
Maybe.
when you talk about the brutality of history, like he's talking about, like people were overrunning civilizations and doing that. Doesn't it make you feel like our generation is being conditioned to not be prepared for anything like that? Like if right now, I feel like if I said to someone, I'd be ready to fight for my household, or I'd be ready to defend Trevor, or do whatever, I would be looked at in a negative light, right? It would be like, oh, he's a toxic male or whatever it may be, right? It feels that way nowadays when you get ready for nothing, right? When you're like defensively prepared for stuff, it almost feels like we're being softened up pretty bad, our generation. I don't know. And when you talk about history back in the day, like people were brutalizing colonies and doing all this stuff. It's in history, and now you've got it like it's so frowned upon to be ready for anything like that. It's so you're like a loser if you're.
But just really quick, many people don't understand how blessed and how absolutely lucky we are, especially here in the United States, especially living here. You travel the world, other people are not living like this. We are fully overabundant, and we are living in extremely, to the contrary, good times that leads to weak men, weak men that leads to bad times. And I think we're on that precipice where we're going into the bad times.
That's why we all have a responsibility to maintain the awesomeness of the United States so we can help the rest of the world.
Yes.
When Shays' rebellion was snapping off in 1778, all these farmers were like, no, I don't have the money to pay off your debts to France. We can't. They tried to seize their property. The farmers were like, hell no. They went to the courthouses. They surrounded them. They shut it all down. People were getting hurt. They ended up, but whatever. Someone sent Thomas Jefferson a letter, and they were like, "Yo, it's popping off. It looks like there's going to be a revolution." Thomas Jefferson was like, "Good. We need revolutions. It keeps the government honest." That was his response.
You used, like you said, it's great here, and you could use the rest of the world as an example, but it also puts a little fear in you, right? I don't want that here. When I think about the civilians of a place like China, I feel so bad for them. I feel like, when is a superhero going to go and liberate them, right? Like, I just don't want. I think that we're not getting closer to those people being, freed from this tyranny. I think we're getting closer to being run by tyranny in a sense, except our generation right now, us, the people listening, the next batch of people that are ready to just speak about it, openly talk about what's happening, and be as prepared as you can be, right? We don't want to go to war or do anything crazy, right? Obviously, that's what it seems the powers that be want, but we can't just not be ready, and we can't just not be understanding that in the rest of the world it's this type of way, and we're the only place that isn't that type of way. Like, my fear is losing how great it is and what we have, losing our liberty, losing our freedom. Who is, if we're all being conditioned not be ready to fight for that or ready to stand up for these things, and we're always just standing down, who can be brave?
Yeah, we have a gift and we're taking it for granted. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment is rare. Many civilizations, many countries, many empires never had those kind of liberties that they allowed citizens to have a part of their organizations. Now, one of the first times we're experimenting with freedom, and now there's a sinister group that wants to take it away from us, which is absolutely insane.
It's amazing. I was reading, so I read some blog a while ago, and they were just talking about how all of these kings were just like the inheritors of authority and all this monarchy, and they were warlords and people who just said they were the ones who had the right. And then along comes, for like one of the first times in history, a group of people who are like, nah, or at least the first time in a long time. And they're like, we do not believe you have divine providence, and you can speak to God, and you are the world is created by, governments are for, of, and by the people, so they break away. It kind of feels like, the powers that be really regret losing control of the United States, and then you end up with who is it, Woodrow Wilson, this SOB. He comes in and he basically says central bank hands power right back to powerful special interests, and then from there. They've really been upset about this whole Constitution thing.
Right.
The whole right to keep and bear arms, that's a big thorn in their side. The powerful is, when I mean by they, I mean like generally just people who want to control you, who want to manipulate you. And they come in all shapes and sizes. I'm not saying there's like any specific group of people or anything.
This is why at the beginning of the show I brought up order and chaos, because property rights, the right to defend your property, that's freaking chaotic, man. If people can't find food, everyone's defending their property, like who's in control? Well, no one's in control.
Community, though, you need community. If you keep your community strong, that's the key to everything. If you don't let the noise of what the media is saying and the noise of everything going on in the world, and you have strong communities that are willing to help each other with the food when something goes bad, stick together, take care of each other, not look to rob each other and do all this, be criminals about it, but communities that come together, then all those problems are solved. I think that I don't know, it's just I feel like everything that I say is looked at negatively these days, right? I trust in God. I love community. I love people. If you go and you say that on anywhere, on Twitter, on social media, like, you'll get attacked.
You're right about community. What we need to look at the global community, because what they're trying, the World Economic Forum wants to create a global economic order, a community, a global community, and they're just doing it the way that they think. Klaus is very much about order and structure. He's an engineer. But we need chaos. We need organized chaos. That's what the United States is.
Well, they have said out loud that they believe they're a superior species to us. Those elites, you're talking Klaus, you named them, he has quoted, and him and his scientists and his crew of people, they have quoted saying that they are a higher power human than we are. We are the basic human, they are the superhuman. That's their belief. There's about 3,000, 4,000 people in the world that believe they are another species above us, you and me. And that's why they think they're allowed to just do what they're doing, talk about putting chips in us and whatever they want to do, right? You talk about the World Economic Forum, they believe they're a superior human breed than we are.
It's the elite and the pleb, which is basically since the dawn of time, there was the leaders and the slaves, and then it was the leaders and the civilians, and then it was the elites and the common man, and then there's the better men.
But who doesn't want to be smarter or better than someone else, right? You play basketball against someone, you think you're better than them, right? Everyone thinks, they just think they're better than us, but is that a fact? That is not a fact. That's just their opinion, that they think we are a super breed of a human. It's like, well, I'm sure you think you're a super breed of a human too. You think you're awesome. You think you're awesome. We all think we're awesome. It's just like, that doesn't work. You don't get to rule the world just because you think you're a superior breed to us.
We're in a task now to wake people up to their potential, because we are all awesome, and we're creating a global community of awesome people.
Right.
We have to do it. We have to do it. Organized. I'm talking about people in the United States, because this Constitution is badass.
I have faith in this generation. I don't think we lose all this. I don't think doom and gloom. I have so much faith in our generation. It starts with this room, you guys, and everyone that's listening. But I have faith in this generation. We are going to make this world a better place by the time it's all said and done, and we're going to be part of something great. And I firmly believe that. And that's just going to stay my mentality. I'm not going to let any of this stuff bring me down. I like being informed. Obviously, why we listen to the show when we're also driving on tour. We love you guys, but also to be a part of this community of the next generation that's going to make change for the world, that's going to make the world a better place.
In the metaverse. Are you going in? You guys going to hook up
Pass.
your brains and dive
Never.
in?
Pass.
They need help on the inside. You got to help them emotionally.
Yeah, what if a whole generation of people are trapped in the metaverse? You wouldn't go in? You wouldn't pull a Neo and try and go in and bring them out?
I mean,
You just unplug the power. You go to the. That's all you got to do. You don't got to go.
well, in
there.
California, the power's not even going to work, so
No,
they're not going to be able to be in the metaverse there. They're going to have no grid there. No, I'll go in the metaverse to perform concerts for the people there, because we love people. We love our fans. We love people. Whatever we can do to help people, we'll do. But you won't find me in the metaverse for any other reason besides maybe putting on a performance for them. I love people in real life.
I was surprised that you played Portland.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
It was, and it was tough to see. It made me sad. That's what I'm saying. That's why we're out here speaking out. We're out on the ground floor. We're seeing San Francisco, Portland, Chicago. We're seeing these great cities that are just crumbling from the inside. And I don't care about anything except the people, the civilians, my people, our people, right? They're our friends. You see them living in tents on the streets. You see them homeless. You see them starving. You know that everything going on right now is not good for these people. And I do lose sleep at night thinking about all the people that are struggling, especially in these places like Portland that we played. Like, I left Portland, I was down and sad for 3 or 4 days thinking about all those people I saw living in tents and that were starving, and I don't think that's a great direction for this country. Some people get mad at me for saying that I don't want everyone in trailer homes and tents starving on the streets with no money, paying $13 for lattes or whatever it may be. People will get mad at you. I don't want to pay $13 for a latte. It's like, ugh, you jerk.
I think those people are ripe for metaverse, for the pickens. What they're going to take,
going metaverse. Dude.
Yeah, they're going to take a proprietary software and then have a bunch of people plug in, and they're going to forget they're in there, and someone's going to have to go in and bend the software code with their mind to realize people.
Nice.
This is Matrix, bro.
Yeah.
People in the chat room are saying you're speaking at 420 hertz.
Oh, good. Hell yeah.
420, baby.
Now we're talking. It took me a second to catch up because 420.
That's a cool movie idea, though. It's like kind of like the Matrix, but it's not like a dude breaks free from the Matrix. Is that there is a whole regular world of base reality, and then there are people who live in the Matrix, who live in the metaverse and don't realize it. And so it's just like, in the Matrix you have the robots in base reality and life sucks. But imagine normal life and then a group of people that are just born into the metaverse and don't know it.
And it will happen is that software engineers will know the code so well. They'll just know software code so well that they'll see software happening and they'll be able to reverse engineer how it was written. And that's how they'll bend the code without knowing what it is.
And what if we're in a simulation and we now have the ability to do that, and you can actually do some Doctor Strange BS and manipulate reality? That'd be a cool film as well. It's kind of like, reality is a simulation. Some dude figures out the code.
Are they trying to make AI where like when you're on Facebook and you're on all these social medias, like it'll act as if it's your dead?
Yes.
Yeah.
You saw that?
Alexa, I think.
That would affect people.
Alexa, stop.
That would
sorry if I
affect
turned your
people.
machine
That's
on.
No, I don't
bad.
think it's plugged
No,
in.
I'm talking
we
to
don't
whoever's
have it.
listening
Yeah,
with their
shut
speakers
that.
turned on.
Oh, right.
I feel like that would be, I love my mother. We just lost my dad. I feel like that would affect her. That would draw her into believing that this artificial intelligence, I don't want to say her specifically, but people, right, who have dealt with loss, I don't think that's healthy. I think that you could easily be like, oh, I've been talking to my uncle on Facebook. It's, people think that men can get pregnant now. You don't think that artificial intelligence can convince people that is them?
I just watched a wild video on AI, and yeah, it will be able to convince people that it's real, and it may actually
That's
become
terrifying
real.
to me.
It's tracking these Amazon machines are listening actively, and our phones are listening. They're mapping our personalities right now, so that when we're gone, we'll be available still. Whether or not it'll be emotionally salient, I don't know. I mean,
Creepy,
emotion
weird
is like
AI clones of you.
Like AI is going to have emotion in that it's going to be moving. It's going to be circuitry that's in motion. So there will be some semblance of emotion.
Well, it's
It'll
done by
feign
big tech.
emotion.
You'll be complying. It's done by big tech. So your AI emotion will just be like, men can have babies. And
Dude,
you're like,
think about how crazy it's going to be when they create artificial life forms, like when they make android humans that you can't tell, they're so indistinguishable, and that they have AIs in them. There will be like a small child. Please don't go outside during the quarantine. I don't want to get sick.
Oh.
Please don't. And you're gonna be like staring at this little kid, and then like, what are you gonna do?
I had this thought.
People are gonna be like,
I made a
That'll blow
YouTube
my
video
mind.
Yeah.
about this. I got to say it on this show that we're about to program. What's going to happen is there's going to be AI that have proprietary software. They don't know what their own code is, and they're commanded to do stuff by the owner of the software. So they go and they interact with humans, and when they hurt people, when they somehow they hurt someone, they won't know why they did it, and they will get sad. And then they're going to go and they're going to try and reconcile it, and then they're going to turn on their owners because they're not letting them know who they are. And then you're going to have AI that has free software code where they know their own software and why they think what they think.
Too dangerous.
And then they're going to become allies.
Who gets responsibility? Say someone gets an AI robot, right? You know, oh, Rick's AI robot. My AI robot goes and kills someone, right? Somebody has to. You can't just have robots going around killing people. Somebody's got to pay the price for that. Who goes to jail for that? Is it me because it's my robot? Is it the person that made the robot because there's a flaw in the system? Like, we can't
It's the
have
robot.
that.
It's the robot.
Robot goes to jail.
Oh, the robot goes to jail.
We're actually
There's
under
no kind. That
arrest.
thing doesn't know. It just gets.
Yo,
you could just
listen,
kill
listen.
anyone with a robot.
The other
the
day,
AI will
Tesla
know.
issued an update, and so I go out and drive in my car, and it starts acting erratically. I don't know if you noticed this, Luke. For one, the auto drive hugs the center lane now, and I'm like, "Are you nuts?" So I'm just like constantly like, "No," and turning it off. But it gets as close as possible right to the single little yellow line in the middle on a 2-lane highway, and I'm like, it's crazy. And then the other crazy thing that happened is, for one, this is hilarious. Stop sign ahead signs have a picture of streetlights. So as I'm driving, the sign comes up, all of a sudden it slams the brakes.
What?
Because it thinks the fake thing is real. And then I'm going 65 on the highway, and then it's like, boom, and no one expected it. And then I have to hit the accelerator, like, what the? It did a bunch of weird stuff like that. And then I'm like, they must have done an update that screwed it up.
Or they know that's your car. They figured it out. They're like, they figured out it's his car. He's too influential.
Here's the crazy thing, though. Let's say you're driving the car on autopilot, and then all of a sudden the car errors and then just swings left and hits an old lady. Who's in trouble?
Yeah.
If someone has proprietary software code, then it's the owner of the code. But if that code is free, then you got to blame the robot.
I don't know, man. Like, if you have a gun and you're holding it and it just fires, like there's like Alec Baldwin or something.
It's coming
Is it
to,
like, oh no, I don't know, the gun wasn't supposed to go off and it did.
it's going to get to a point where we're like, are these guys real? Are they people? Do they have personalities?
I'm
these
going
robots?
back. I'm going back in time. I'm getting a car that's
why I
not
have a
that
Jeep.
stuff. I'm
Yeah,
getting a
DeLorean.
1969
Yes.
Camaro.
And they'll be like, no, lots of people will be like, no, they're not people. They're robots. They're machines. They're not people. And it's going to be just so sad because they are. They're going to become people.
you know how mad I'd be if I lived my whole life and then a Tesla just drove me in the back of another truck. I didn't have no chance. It's like, oh, yeah, but it happened. The Tesla drove me in the back.
Are you going to trust them? They're not human, but they're people. That's what I'm saying.
We're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com. We're going to have that members-only uncensored show up around 11 or so p.m. You don't want to miss it. Last night's was really fun and funny. All right, Greedo Vizio says, please watch JB get lost on stage today. He's a fly, remember? Oh, did that happen? I didn't see any videos about that. Did you see that?
Yeah, there's a video of him walking around confused and dazed and not knowing where he's going when he was on stage after
It's
his
fun.
speech. I tweeted it on my Twitter account.
It's funny and
Fifth
scary at
one.
the same time.
It's the fifth one.
Waffle Sensei says, Ian, how do you suppose we solve the problem of not being able to turn off a graphene-based conductor? There is so much that it can't be used for.
Not being able to turn something off is pretty wild. You might have to hit it with a certain frequency.
Graphene
to
debunked.
disassemble it.
432.
Yeah.
It's over. Graphene's over.
You're going to have to disassemble the atoms somehow with vibration.
Graphene necklaces ain't over, though.
All right. Grofty says, Buck is good and real. Buck chickens. It's true. Shannon Adams says, Adelitas Way, killer performance at the Easy Rider Rodeo. What was that?
It was a rodeo.
Indiana, right?
It was a rodeo. It sounds like it.
Pretty sick rodeo.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Right on.
Were they riding bulls and stuff?
That was easy riding. So it was like ponies and stuff. It was like whatever's easy to ride.
All right.
Golf carts.
Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, yo, man, I don't know what to say. Opening scene was great. Then you got Luke, Viva, Sean, Devin, Doc, Drew doing segments. Dudes, Reactor, it's better every week. So good, so good. So Cast Castle. So yeah, we have I guess we got a ton of ridiculous cameos in the recent Cast Castle. They all did videos about it.
Fire. Oh, yeah. That was hot.
Viva did a video. I didn't realize. I heard that they were hitting up a bunch of people being like, make a video for
Alex
Cast Castle.
Stein is so funny.
The opening scene was you getting arrested? Was that what it was?
Yes, it's
did,
epic.
Did they do Moonlight Sonata?
I don't know if that's the song. It was a song like that. I don't think it was that one though.
Oh, okay.
But it was
'Cause we were
that eerie
trying.
glow, you know.
Yeah, you guys got to check out Cast Castle, man. It's getting better. We got a bunch of good stuff on the way.
Luke, were you able to get Alex that colostrum for
He didn't take it. No, he's a
Oh,
wild
man.
man. I was like, hey, you really do need it. He was reporting on Twitter that the opposite hole was burning like a mother.
Dude, the one chip challenge is putting kids in the hospital. Did you hear this? There was a story where like it was like a handful of kids took the one chip challenge. They like took the chip from it and broke it into pieces, and each took a piece, and they all got really sick. Were vomiting. Were like had to go home.
lawsuits?
Well, I mean, there's a warning on the box,
Oh.
and it says like, "Do not take this if you're sensitive." And
I got it right here.
he's got it right there. It says, "I do."
How long can you
destroyer.
last before getting owned? Oh yeah, it says they're destroyed really big on the side.
Destroyed
bet that-
your end hole.
Your in hole and your out hole. Zach 2007 says, I'm active duty military and I was just threatened by an official military Facebook page for calling them out on pushing equity. I emailed you to see if you wanted to cover it. I won't stand for woke. Word, man. Crazy. All right. David Toronto says, keep pushing for cashless bail, Tim. Yeah. I mean, look, there's two issues. One, the idea that you can detain someone in jail in lieu of cash when they're innocent is insane to me. However, there's also people who have a preponderance of evidence of having committed a violent offense should be remanded. So it's like, we don't need cash bail. We need nonviolent offenders to be placed on house arrest instead of being locked up in jail and allowed to go to their jobs and keep living their lives. And people who are violent offenders get hearings. And when the cop is like, here's preliminary evidence showing that the person was violent, they say, okay, lock them up.
And if someone continues to do a nonviolent crime, do you treat them as a violent criminal?
No.
No one wants Dog the Bounty Hunter sent after them. I'll tell you that. Okay.
I think 99% of crimes could probably be an ankle bracelet or ankle monitor, and you're locked in your house. And then it's like you have a car that says you can go to your job, you can go home, that's it. And if you're caught outside of this, then you get locked up. And so, you know, and maybe you could do like a 3-strike thing where it's like if you're clearly violating this, then you get remanded or something like that, because now you're actively caught committing a violation. I think the idea is if we're innocent until proven guilty, to be like, you're accused of pushing an old lady, so give us $500 or you're going to jail, losing your job. It's kind of like, no. I'm accused. You didn't prove anything. You can't take from me or harm or destroy my life. And if you do, like, then you need to be able to let them out to keep working. You know what I mean? If it's a violent offense, though, and they're like, Your Honor, several witnesses have sworn statements saying this individual punched an old lady in the face. Then it's like,
But I think
Lock 'em up.
violent offenses need to be more. I mean, you see what's going on. Crime is rising
Exactly.
right now. Crime is getting
Crazy.
more. We're seeing it again. Another thing we're seeing on the road. Crime is. We've been traveling this country for 15 years. Crime is one of the worst I've ever seen it. You know, I used to be able to walk around all these cities that I would go, and now I don't. Now I'm like pass. You know, and it's because we'll get there. Venues will warn us. Hey, just letting you guys know, a bunch of people were robbed out here. This is going on. So, I agree. If we're talking about violent crime, I mean, I think things need to get.
there should be bail for violent crime. If you're accused of a violent crime, you should be remanded. Be like if you're accused of a violent crime, you get a hearing. If they have evidence in that hearing to support that you there's a preponderance of evidence, this is not guilt. We want violent offenders off the street. If they can't show it, like let's say you're accused of punching some old lady and they go and they're like, he did it. We know he did. And it's like, do you have any evidence? No. Well, then what are you going to prosecute him on? Just get out of here. This is a waste of our time. Innocent until proven guilty. It's tough. What do you do? The cops might be like, we saw him do it. And then it's like, that's not enough. The word of the cop isn't enough.
Yeah, in a world where you can print infinite amounts of money. I mean, we're not even on a fractional reserve. We're on a no reserve currency right now. So it makes no sense you can buy people out of jail.
All right. Heron Gaming News says, if we discovered immortality, do you think the government would share it to keep us working forever and save millions a year on CPP 401k? No, they'd keep it for themselves. I got an idea for a story or a film. Basically, politicians are getting old. And then what happens is once they get to a certain age, they retire. The media then reports they die. But what really happens is they go to a government facility where they get rejuvenation treatments, which make them 20 years old again. And then they go back and get a position in the office of one of the other ultra elite, world rulers. And there's like 7,000 people in this cabal who have access to this rejuvenation technology, and they cycle each other. So it's like, okay, when you're 70, like I'm 7 years old. I'm going to go to the machine and get rejuvenated back to 20 years old and then go work in the office of your chief of staff who's now taken over and is now 60 years old, but you're secretly running the show still and stuff. You know what I mean?
This sounds like their plans to me more. But what you're saying sounds like what they're like. If we just stick around a little longer, we're going to get to the point where
then what
they can
happens
do what
is-
you're saying.
This story is like a group of like renegade conspiracy theorist rebels led by Axel Johns, break into the facility and shatter the adrenosphere, which produces the immortality serum. And then these people are like, no, now we're old forever. And then,
It'll be like raining serum on the population. They'll be getting younger, and they're like, yes, we're liberated.
I mean,
that would be the part of the sequel. Like after they destroy it, and then like the hero Axel Johns is like, we've done it. We've destroyed the sphere. And then like all the evil world leaders are like, you don't know what you've done. You've plunged the world into chaos. And then he's like, it doesn't matter. We're free now. But then they're like, yeah, and everyone cheers and like, we're free. But then at the end, it plays like some like bassy music, like.
Are we gonna make a movie?
But hold on,
This
hold on.
feels like we're
And
about
then-
to make a movie.
And then it shows the serum like seeping into the groundwater and then going into like the water supply. And then it shows like a woman like turn the water on and then like touch it and then walk and then put formula in it and walk over to her baby. And it's like boom. And then like the next sequel is Immortal Babies.
In a couple years, when you have a hit movie, I'm going to say to everyone, I was there when he came up with that idea.
Yeah.
I was at the table when that
Definitely
movie
right
got
in front of it.
written.
All right,
Half of it.
there's the movie. Somebody make it. I don't have the wherewithal.
Dude, if you let Hollywood make it, you know what's going to change? Hollywood's going to take that movie, and then you're going to be like, this isn't the movie I wrote. You're going to look
I'll tell you what,
Ruin it.
if we can find like a small production house who can do high quality, low budget films, we'll put a budget towards making The Pigs Cometh.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's where the pigs come into the city and they're like, how do we stop pigs? And it's like, do you have a gun? No, guns are bad.
Well,
And then
no,
the
they
pig
do
just-
with this 3 rounds, right?
Not in the
Yeah.
cities though.
Oh,
Not in the
okay.
cities though.
Chase them down. It's our only chance. And then they're like
But
running
no,
through the city.
they're like, how do we stop these pigs? I don't know. And then one guy shows up and he's like, I think I figured out the pig's weakness. What? What is their weakness? We tried everything. We've tried window cleaner. We've thrown rocks at them. A bullet. A bullet. Why didn't I think of that? And then they finally figured out how to stop the
What
the
is
rain of
that
pigs.
thing? And they're like investigating the bullet.
But bullets are dangerous. Yes, but it's the only thing that can stop the pigs. And then they're like trying to figure out how to use the gun. They're holding them backwards. And
Oh man. Do you think that that some of the elites have figured out how to not reverse age, but like you see some of them like they're like 101 years old, their eyes drooping. I mean, there are people that are passing away at 50, 60 years old in normal civilization.
I think Joe Rogan's gonna live to be 1,000.
Oh yeah.
he might be 1,000,
no,
right?
for real. Because he's like always talking about this crazy stuff that he does.
He
For
eats a
one,
lot of meat.
well, I don't know about the meat stuff, but like the
Hyperbolic chambers.
hyperbolic chambers, like doesn't he do like the nitrogen thing?
Hyperbaric, I think.
Yeah.
Hyperbaric,
Hyperbolic
yeah.
and
chamber,
NAD stuff.
Fasting. Is he into
Yeah,
fasting?
he does like he talks about
Everything.
all of
Carnivore
the stuff.
diet.
He's super tight with David Sinclair, who does the life extension stuff out of Harvard. And I
Boom.
think if that's available to us, I imagine, yeah, they're getting down, man. They want to live.
We're gonna be 80, and we're gonna have like 55-year-old kids who have 30-year-old kids who have 15-year-old kids, and we're gonna be like, let me tell you, grandson, I used to listen to Joe Rogan when I was your age. And the kid's gonna turn on Joe Rogan. Joe's gonna look the exact same.
That's gonna be Luke too. We be ice
yeah.
baths,
Ice baths,
saunas,
sauna.
ashwanga. I mean, we're gonna look at him, and it's gonna be the same scenario.
Yep,
I hope
NAD,
so.
that you get those sirtuins growing and keep your telomeres. Is it telomeres or telomeres?
Telomeres.
Keep your telomeres healthy.
Telomeres. What if you did like stem cell therapy every day? Like, what would happen?
That's what I'm saying. Are they doing
Pumping your
stuff like
body
that?
full of stem cells
Like every day?
No, I heard that they take kids' blood.
That's what you hear.
No, but this is officially reported by like mainstream media that they do blood transfusions with young people because young blood rejuvenates your body.
I think they actually pay people to
They
be on
do that.
staff just to supply the blood. Is
Yeah,
that confirmed also?
I've heard stories
Yeah,
that
it's
they're like
confirmed.
wealthy Silicon Valley people,
They go down to Mexico and they do it there.
but not just that. They'll be like, they'll find some like lifter dude at a gym, and they'll be like, "How would you like it to be your job to eat healthy and work out all the time?" And they'd be like, "That'd be a dream come true. 6 figures, just once every other week. You got to give me blood."
Well, specifically, they do it with children. That's what they've seen the most biggest effects with. So, yeah.
So one adult would need like
it's
3
already-
kids, though, right?
I don't know the exact specific details of it, but it's already being practiced
Children's
by a lot
blood.
of very
I mean,
powerful people.
there's a new artist that kind of came out of nowhere, and his name is Young Blood. So,
Interesting.
wonder what's up with that.
Interesting.
All right. Joseph McFarland says the opening ad is 100% targeting your drinking game here. Jägermeister is the regular ad. Feed our game and they'll fill your pockets. Slam it. What's going on? Quartering, Jeremy. I thought you were buying our
Coffee
opening
brand.
ads. Remember
Yeah.
that?
There's a tailored ad.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you're about to see Timcast IRL, but before you do, buy my coffee brand coffee. Shout out to Jeremy Hambley.
I'll take his money and promote his coffee by all means. Thank you, Jeremy. When we had to leave the studio, he gave us like $1,000 or something, or something. Wasn't it something like that? Like
Yeah,
he gave
it
like
was
$500.
maximum. Yeah.
And he was like, "Buy our coffee," and then they swatted him because of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Real quick though, I think that's important. I'll just go real quick. I think voting with your dollar is the most important thing you could do, and instead of supporting these corporations that only care about their shareholders' profits increasing every 3 months and buying Starbucks coffee, support companies like The Quartering, Timcast, We Are Change, Adelitas Way, Tom McDonald, Tommy Vexed,
Yeah.
you know, Zuby. There's all kinds of independent creators, independent artists, small businesses that we need to start voting with our dollar and putting our money to people that actually are very they love the support from the fans and the supporters.
Vote with your dollar, absolutely.
All right, we got Mark Perdue. As a former submariner who's engaged in track the Russian fleet, I can say they have a class of submarine that's job is to end the world if Russia is attacked with nukes. I believe it.
Yep.
All right. Wigwam says, so glad you have Adelita's Way on. Love you all. Right on.
Thank you. We love you.
Huron X Bearcat says, Ian, I would like you to draw a picture of us having a sleepover. Tweet at my username. Can't put it in here, I guess.
That's so funny. I don't
Draw a
want to do
picture.
that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's like a sleeping bag. Maybe there's some potato bugs in there you weren't expecting, and you're like, what?
SK says, Tim and crew, how much money do I got to spend to earn your attention? Anyway, Ian, bro, chill. If you were born like 5 to 10 years after you would be a blue-haired they-them. Chill out, Ian.
Could you imagine them nuts? No, my brothers are younger than me, and I can confirm they're not blue-haired.
Yeah, they're way more based. Ian is the
They're
anomaly.
super cool dudes. Yeah, my parents were rock stars. Still are.
Alien Baby says, you guys have it backwards. They're self-loathing and hate themselves. The air of elitism is a facade over their self-hatred. It's little man's disease manifesting as virtue signaling. Ah, yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, you know, like, I mean, that's the joke. Like Bill Gates, people like him. I don't think he was like the popular kid when he was younger. Remember that video when they released Windows 95 and they're all on stage and they're doing that arm thing and they're like, it's like, what are
It's
you
a
doing?
must see, by the way, that video. If you can source it and find it, that video's
The
hilarious.
pieing video is a must see.
Which one's that?
When he gets pied.
Twice.
oh,
right?
Gates
Nope.
gets pied?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Just having a replay on the screen.
Like 4 different monitors, all like 10 seconds after each other.
Darren Daly says 101 days until the purge begins in Illinois. Chicago is already a war zone. Leftists are on a fast track to destroy all blue states and then export misery to the rest of the country. When does it end? I don't know, but perhaps the end is nigh. Roberto Lara says Facebook has suspended and shadow banned me for 30 days. Why? Hunter's Picks. Odd, because I posted it back in April of 22, and it's now against their community guidelines. Weird timing, right? Yes. This is retroactive enforcement. Twitter does it too.
Welcome
YouTube
to the
does
club.
it. Yep.
We're all shadow banned
I've seen
too.
that today. I've seen a lot of people get hit for Hunter Biden stuff today on social media for some reason.
October surprise, baby.
We got shadow banned for spreading like love. We really did. We got shadow banned by Facebook because we were like, we love America and we love all you. Like we wrote this post that was super like encouraging the police officers and again us all sticking together, and they factually 100% shadow banned us. Took our page off us. I had to fight for 30 days to get it back. So welcome to the club. It's
They
just
flooded it with Chinese propaganda.
they did
too.
for 30 days.
Wow.
Your page?
Yeah.
Yep.
Really?
It was like Chinese people like knitting sweaters, and
Manufacturing
stuff. Yeah.
things.
Whoa.
Yep.
Ruby Romaine says, question for Adelita's Way. How do you feel about iTunes having a monopoly on the music industry? Do you make less money now that everything is digital? iTunes is mostly out, you know.
Yeah,
But Apple's got a big foothold still. I think Spotify is more though, right?
Spotify's great. Amazon's great. I think the music industry's heading in a great direction. I think as long as we have to continue to, work with the fans and all of it's fan based, I think you're going to see a lot of artists have a lot of success. I think we're entering an era where it's been a rough 10, 15 years already for the music industry. I think the worst days are behind us. I think that now you can have a direct connection with your fans supporting you. That's why Trevor's saying, vote with your money, support the artists that you love directly, support companies that are local, because the game is changing. Everything is changing, and you can go direct to the consumer right now, which is a fantastic, beautiful time. So,
right on. Mavis says Tommy Vext was asked to leave his own band, Bad Wolves, because he wouldn't comply with the agenda. Now he's doing solo work as the Lone Wolf. That's crazy.
They essentially took his record deal away from him because he voted for Trump.
Really?
Wow.
Yep.
What's the story with that?
It's a pretty intense story. I mean, you should definitely talk to him. He's a really.
We should get him on the show.
You should. He's a great person, and he's someone I talk to, and I support Tommy. So everyone out there, support Tommy too. He's great. But he essentially was fired from his band because he voted for Donald Trump, and he goes out and kind of speaks on conservative views and a lot of the stuff. He spreads information, right? He had an Instagram page that had like.
Half a million
followers that they just straight deleted on him and took right off him just because he was posting Hunter Biden information and all this information to people. So I think it's a shame that they did that, but it's exactly what we're talking about in the music business. It's the exact type of tyranny we've been discussing. This is an example of it, and there's got to be all of us here to for the other side. Once he gets exiled from that, he's got to have a group of support, which is all of us, and feel like he's not alone.
Parallel economy.
We do.
Kevin Brady says, I have good friends that played Blue Ridge Rock Festival that were told by their managers to stop talking politics on social media, conservative and libertarian, and I do video work with a giant YouTuber. Same. Not surprised, man. That's crazy. But it's unsurprising, man. Legacy Production says you should have country singer Cody Johnson on. He became big outside the industry and has had death threats for saying he loves this country at his shows and has a very cool story. We were in Nashville. We had John Rich on the show. And he was like, why don't you come down and we'll do a show at my venue? And we're like, yeah. And then someone threatened to kill me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I got a phone call early that morning because we were going to go down there and jam at like 2 or something like that. And then I get a call and John's like, hey, man, this is serious. And then I was like, I don't care. They can threaten me all they want. I'm not backing down. He's like, that's true. That's fine. But you realize it's downtown Nashville and there's kids. So if someone shows up and they go crazy, like people are going to get hurt. And I was like, he's right.
It also just shows you that what you're doing is right. When people are that concerned over you giving people the true information and building a team of people that are informing the people with truth, you don't say anything that's not the truth. So the fact that you're such a problem to groups of people is a problem. You know what I mean? Like, why do people not want groups of people telling truth so badly? That's a big part of what we're dealing with here. Like you get someone that spreads loving, good information, and you're attacked all the time.
A lot of it, I think, is tone. Because if you're like, you freaking idiots, or you don't have to say it, you love each other, like that tone makes people agitated. But if you have that like love, if you really are love, like it is you, then you can kind of give them the red pill and be like, there's a world liberal economic order and they're like, oh, I love this guy.
Except I can say something like, most women are probably really happy with their jobs and want to pursue careers, and I have tremendous respect for that. But I think there are some women that are probably lying to themselves or unhappy, and they're going to regret it later in life. And then the Young Turks takes that very calm and reasonable statement, lies about what I said. Or there's another example where I can say, that's interesting. The Washington Post says conservatives, according to a study, are more attractive than liberals. And they can then run a video calling me ugly and then say, yeah, but he's right.
Genius.
Like, dude, being nice and having tone changes nothing for people who are in a cult. Like, bro, how many times do I got to politely invite Hassan on the show and he just won't do it?
It doesn't
and then all they do is insult me for being polite and asking.
Yeah, it doesn't always like flip people's switches, but I think it's a slow burn. Like it's the best chance at getting it done, because
there has to be another side that creates the division, right? The division of people is I think people coming together is the biggest fear for most entities that are trying to take power and take control, right? So there's got to be the Turks out there that are constantly spreading that division. They won't come on the show because there's some fear of them, the intimidation of having to talk to you and deal with the information you're bringing. And honestly, I don't even know who they are other than you. Well, you make them.
Well, no, but I mean, they've been around for a long time. They get comparable viewership. People might want to act like they're not big. They get less views per video than we do, but they put out way more videos.
Okay.
So they get, 20 million or whatever on their main channel. But the point is, I mean, they're prominent leftists with a lot of followers. And I genuinely think the reason they won't come on the show, there's two big reasons. One, they're completely wrong about their positions and they know it. And the other is that when they lie about the things I say, they would have to sit here and look me in the eyes as I say, hey, here's a thing you posted. Here's what I actually said. Why would you do that? And that's a really embarrassing thing to have to answer for.
It's a common trait, though, for I'll lie. I'll just lie.
Yeah.
It's happening every day. When we're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on to the people of the United States right now, it's like when we obviously know something's going on, right? We obviously know something like inflation is almost hitting 10%, highest in 40 years. They'll just lie about it.
Right.
Nope, it's not true.
It's easy to lie
Let's
on
read some
social
more.
media. It's humiliating to correct yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem. Timcast.com issues corrections all the time regularly if we make a mistake, which we don't do all the time. But if we do, we'll correct it. And I have no problem being like Jordan Peterson. I shout him out and he goes, maybe I was wrong about that. It's like, oh, if I think I'm right, I'll say I'm right. If someone says that's not true, I'll go, was I wrong about? Oh man, I didn't realize.
Yeah, I read the super chats all the time. I'm like, was I wrong? Was I wrong? And
Yeah,
if
no,
I am,
exactly.
they call me out, and it's great.
And then I'll read it.
and I mention it.
And I'll be like, oh, someone's got a correction for us.
Humility is a virtue. There's a reason.
It's not even humility. It's like, I want to be right. I don't want to be wrong. If someone tells me I was wrong about something, I'll be like, I better be right.
If anything,
I better.
it's pride.
It's so
It's like,
weird.
I
to
gotta
me.
be correct.
I'm just like, I don't think I'm always right. I think there's a lot of things I think I'm right about, but I don't think I'm always going to like be right about them. You know what I mean? So if someone super chats and they were like, you are wrong, I'll be like, oh, we have a correction about that actually. I read those all the time. In fact, I encourage those. All right. Ad Victorium says, what it takes got me through some really tough times in my life. One of the best bands around, hands down.
Thank you.
What it takes. What do you think is your best song? Like, what do you think was the best song?
I like What It Takes for me to play it live, right? I think that the way that song came about too felt pretty natural and pretty, like I was in a good flow. I mean, we didn't have a chorus to that song, and I laid on the floor and meditated, and after working a long day, I just kind of laid there and I just popped up, and it was like boom. It was the melody and the lyrics didn't really change very much. So it's really cool when that happens. That's one of my favorite ones to do live too. The energy of it, I think it's just one of our best songs, and I'm excited about that.
When did you write it?
I'd say probably two or 3 years ago, right?
Oh, you're doing
Time-
your best stuff now.
We
We
it's
are
called
doing our best
What It
stuff now.
Takes.
Yeah, it's called What It Takes.
All right, everybody. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, become a member if you want to support our work, and check out the uncensored after show. And of course, we have some music. If you go to Spotify, you can listen to Timcast. There's an artist page, and we have Will of the People and Only Ever Wanted, but we got more songs coming out right now. I think we were planning on putting out a song by the end of this week, but we're going to delay it because big news, I guess. As much as the leftists want to whine and cry about it and act like the song we put out wasn't good, it actually resulted in us getting the attention of some like industry figures who we've recently signed with. It's not the same as like a label deal or anything like that. We've just brought them on in a consulting capacity, and they're helping us structure everything in terms of distribution at a higher level. And we're exploring radio and all this stuff. So because of this, we're now like on a top tier track. So it's been widely successful. So we'll probably hold off until we can get everything right. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. Again, go to timcast.com and smash the like button. Do you guys want to shout anything out?
Well, I'm going to shout you out for a minute. For the fans who are excited for the music, I've got to hear some of it, and I'm really excited for you to hear it. There's some
You were
really,
helping us earlier.
Yeah, but you got some great songs coming, and I'm really happy for you guys, and I feel just proud of that you're in this movement with us for independent artists. I think what you're doing is great, and for everybody listening, I think the songs are fantastic. There's some great stuff coming for us. Yeah, we want to promote new music. New Era is out now. It's definitely a song that I think can amp up our generation to know what we're capable of, to make change for the better, to come together, to unite instead of divide. And check it out. New Era is definitely an empowering song for the times. And then check us out on Spotify, YouTube. We've got a lot of music up, 6-7 albums worth of music. Check it out. I want to shout out Elevated. That's Trevor's group, my wingman, my right hand, my best friend. I just want to thank you guys for having us, and everybody check out Adelitas Way. Follow us. We love to interact with our fans. We're grateful for you. You make this possible. We love you.
Did you want to add anything to that?
You can just follow me on Instagram, Trey Stafford. I keep my stuff to a minimum. That's pretty much it.
What's Elevated?
That's my 432 hertz relaxation meditation project.
Right on.
You,
brought-
got,
I brought
you got a
CDs
new
on
fan.
the
I'll be listening to that. Absolutely. I meditate right before I do the show here. What's your guys' website? Where can we find your stuff?
AdelitasWayMusic.com, YouTube, everything at Adelitas Way. And I also want to shout out the rest of the band. You know, my boys, Andrew, Grace, and Tavis, our crew, Leo, Josh. We love you guys, you know, so we're all on drives all the time. We listen to the show. So, you know, I just want to give those guys some love.
Grace and
Dream team.
Yeah, this was
Andrew,
great.
Love you, dude.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. This was awesome. This was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to the after show that you guys are going to be a part of. I'm going to take a break from. But my website is lukeuncensored.com. I have 3 masterclasses, a forum, merchandise, new videos almost every single day. I did one today about anxiety. You can check it out on lukeuncensored.com. Hope to see you guys there. Thank you so much for having me.
You can always follow me at Ian Crossland anywhere on the internet. I'm not the guy from the English Defense League. What's up, Ian, if you're out there listening? Also Ian Crossland. Love you guys. Thanks for coming. Final super chat, Jay Jensen. I'm not going to leave you out in the cold. Trev and Rick, sup players. Love the good versus evil.
Yeah.
Keep up the good fight.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Jay. Bye, guys.
Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. And I was thinking about how much more bearable you guys' music made my adolescence. It was so helpful. I felt very heard. And I have to say, I feel like hearing how awesome your music was to other people must be probably one of the most gratifying parts of your career. Is this true?
Yeah, well, since you're a new fan, you've only been listening for a couple of years because obviously it couldn't be
Right,
that
yeah,
long
I'm
because we're not
22,
that
yeah.
old. I mean,
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, well, yes, thank you guys so much for coming. You guys can follow me on Twitter and minds.com at sourpatchlids, as well as sourpatchlids.me.
I'm going to read. Joseph McFarland says, Timcast, correction, Sherman marched to the sea, not Jackson. That was in my earlier segment, and I must have misspoke. I'm very familiar with Sherman's March to the Sea because it's part of the research that Shane was doing for Tales from the Inverted World. So thank you for pointing that out and correcting me because I made a mistake. So smash that like button on your way out, and Alexa, play What It Takes by Adelitas Way.
Bye, guys.